Splatoon is a 4v4 third-person shooter where you play as a squid kid, or an inkling, and shoot colored ink both at your opponents and at inkable floors and walls. There's a heavy emphasis on managing your two forms properly to maneuver your way through fights. It's this constant push and pull of what an inkling does that is the driving force of Splatoon's gameplay. It wasn't just a new IP, it was a breath of fresh air. I felt like I had gotten a lot out of Splatoon back in the day, but looking back to when it came out, I didn't actually have a ton of time put in. As much as I wanted to play more of Splatoon, I also wanted more of Splatoon. But the whole idea of always having to play stuff like Splat Zones in a ranked environment was a turnoff, personally. A world feeling alive is one thing, but keeping said world alive is another. It's nice to see Splatoon as big as it is now, but what about the first game? Wasn't it still playable when 2 came out, let alone 3? On October 4th, Nintendo tweeted out that online play, communication, and almost all online features on both consoles would be ending in early April, the actual end date being April 8th, 2024. No more ranked or turf wars in Splatoon.
Well, you know what? Nintendo be damned. If they were gonna shut down the servers for all of these games, and Splatoon 1 was going down for good, I was gonna make sure to cover all my bases and get my mileage in the end. Before April 8th, 2024, in the last few months of Splatoon 1's lifespan, I was gonna become an S-rank Splatoon player.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
When the initial shutdown announcement was made, I was worried about a premature closure of the servers messing up my plans, but that didn't stop me from waiting until the start of 2024 to really get down to business. It was less procrastination, at least at that point, and more that I wanted to finish my college semester and start everything off with a fresh state of mind. After all, even though Splatoon 1 originally came out after my freshman year of high school, I was at university at this point. Had I not been confused on what to do when I started community college and changed majors a couple times, I'd have been done by then. But oh well.
I'm so proud. Yes, not you.
Well, if we're gonna go over this, it'd only be appropriate that we change the scene to fit the time. Fuck it. Ooh. It did a number on me, didn't it? And here we are, the college apartment where I... There we go. A college apartment where I went through my Splatoon 1 ranked experience. Among many other experiences. This is a shit bottle opener. Let's not get off track here. Now, I consider myself a pretty skilled gamer, all things considered, but when the Wii U and 3DS servers were announced to shut down, I realized something. I've never really achieved anything in a ranked and or competitive setting. I mean, in general, but especially with gaming. I've been gaming my whole life, and I've always been stuck as someone who's too good in casual scenarios, but still isn't pro gamer levels, so like, I'm managing my skill level to not be a buzzkill, but there's no greater purpose for the skill level, you know? Me being good at the games is just a byproduct of this being my special interest. But what if I actually wanted to try and improve myself? What if I wanted to take on a game's ranked mode, seriously go against other players, and get the top rank? Just, if anything, to say that I've done it. And that's ultimately why we're here.
But why Splatoon 1 specifically, you might ask? What about the servers shutting down made me so adamant to do this? Well, aside from getting my mileage with the game before I no longer could, it's because I remember being particularly good at Splatoon 1 back in the day, in a way that I'm not for its sequels. Fucking hell. There's something about the original game, whether it be the gamepad controls, its many unique gameplay elements, or how characters and environments are proportioned in comparison to its sequels, that just clicks for me. It also helps that by this time in the game's life, there wouldn't be any gameplay updates to worry about messing up my flow. Or rather, giving people flows. I could cook in Splatoon 1. I know I could. All I had to do was do it.
Getting S Plus in Splatoon 1 was my best chance at hitting the top rank in any sort of competitive online setting, and not giving an honest attempt at it would fill me with regret for the rest of my life. I never got far in Overwatch competitive, never even got past Platinum because the solo queue grind was misery, especially when you're playing Mercy 75% of the time because no one wants to play support. I'm not going back to Overwatch, Overwatch 2, whatever. Smash doesn't really have one, TF2 doesn't really have one, and it never will. Too antisocial to join the Sixes or Highlander team. I'm not good at popular FPS or fighting games. I'm not playing a traditional MOBA, ever. I'm only really good at 3D platformers and other specific titles, and goddammit, Splatoon 1 is one of them. This was my chance to prove, if anything, to myself, that I could not just do well in a competitive ranked setting, but also achieve the top rank in an online game. If I didn't do this now, then I probably wouldn't ever get the chance to do it again. Because past this point in my life, I don't know if I'll have the mental fortitude or the time and resources to do it. Or the liver.
So believe it or not, this is where the whole idea for these videos stemmed from in the first place. It wasn't gonna be some big retrospective type thing, but instead of video detailing my journey and many struggles with playing ranked to try and reach S+ before the servers shut down. However, for a variety of reasons, I felt that telling everything up to this point was the best course of action before we really got into the meat of Splatoon 1's ranked mode, and what I went through in my time with it.
Back in love with this shit. Back in love with this shit. Back in love with this shit.
Even though I briefly mentioned stuff about ranked, including its game modes, I didn't actually talk about how ranked worked earlier, so let's start there. During the news broadcast when you start the game, Callie and Marie will tell you about the maps currently in rotation, which changes every 4 hours.
4 hours again?
There would be 2 for regular battle stages, and 2 for ranked. The difference here is that regular battles only ever included turf war, while ranked not only changed maps every 4 hours, but the game mode as well, between Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Splat Zones. That means if you wanted to play Rainmaker, whether it's because it's your favorite, or because you're not as good at the other modes, but one of the other 2 modes were currently in rotation, you'd either have to wait or play whatever's available. Thankfully, for Splatoon 1, your rank is shared between all ranked game modes, so you can be as flexible as you want with what you play in ranked, so long as you have the time to cooperate with the rotation schedule. Which, in my situation, ended up getting a bit tricky, as you'll see. And say you get the game mode you want, sure. That doesn't mean you'll get the best choice of maps, which, by the way, you don't get to choose. Even with only 2 maps in rotation, whenever you go into a match, the game chooses one of the maps at random. With 2 maps, you'd figure it's usually a 50-50 chance on which is chosen, but sometimes it feels like the game will vastly prefer one map over the other just to spite you. It's like playing Mario Kart with your brother, and rather than go back and forth with the course choice like it should be, with a slight deviation here and there to keep things interesting, instead it chooses your brother 5 times in a row when he's only picking Moo Moo Meadows, Brandon! The main issue with the map randomness is that some playstyles and weapons work better for certain maps, and some don't. For example, say that the maps in rotation are Port Mackerel and Piranha Pit for Splat Zones. Port Mackerel is a pretty narrow and closed-in map, so you'd probably want to pick stuff that's good for close range, like a roller or a blaster, with a sub and special to complement that playstyle. But then you end up getting Piranha Pit 3 times in a row, a map that's much more open and can be trickier to get around for weapons like that, at least as opposed to a shooter or a charger. Now that said, you definitely can still get results, especially since Splat Zones are usually concentrated in specific areas around the middle of the map, which works well for close-range weapons, and ultimately how well you do depends on your own skill levels and how well the team you're on works together, no matter how much you may want to think otherwise. I just think this works as a good example of why optimizing your playstyle for ranked is kind of tricky in Splatoon.
I should also clarify that even regardless of the rank I ended up at when all said and done, that I am by no means an expert or a professional at Splatoon. I'm just someone who really likes the game and spent a decent amount of time with it. So anything I say about how good certain maps, strats, or maps are is mainly based on my own personal experience here. Take it under consideration, but don't take it as gospel.
The randomness doesn't just stop at maps either. When you queue up for a ranked match, you'll be put into a lobby and have to wait until there are 8 people of the same ranked letter grade in the lobby. So if you're rank A+, you can match with anyone from A+ to A-, but not anyone in B+. The only exception is S and S+, which are separated to be by themselves. Once you have enough players, you'll all be put into one of the 2 maps in rotation and split into 2 teams at random. If there's only one player with a charger and they end up on the other team, you just have to deal with it. Same goes for when there's one guy in the lobby who definitely doesn't have great game sense and they end up on your team. It sucks, but there's still a chance you can win, and your rank is at risk anyway. Better haul ass and work with what you got. What makes this trickier to work with in the long run, however, is that the teams get scrambled every match. So yeah, while it would suck to be in the scenarios I just mentioned, you could be in the opposite situation next match and have the advantage. Do you leave and try again later with a different group of people where things might be better balanced, or do you gamble? This will not stop the game from putting that one person who's really good at the game on the other team as you 8 times in a row, but it's random, I assure you.
You can tell I have a lot of baggage from this project, and not just the personal shit.
But wait, if the issue is weapon balance, because, for example, there's only one charger player in the lobby, why not just switch weapons in between matches to fix that? Well, first off, not everyone is gonna be good with every weapon. Even if you were to get a second charger player to help balance things out, that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna be as accurate or as effective as the other player who might specialize in what they do. Some people only focus on one playstyle or weapon, so swapping to another might not be a viable option. That's why you won't see me playing chargers to try and combat this issue, because I'm way too nervous of a gamer, let alone person, to be consistent enough as a sniper, in almost any game. I'm not quick-scope nasty every day, you know? I'm worth a couple trick shots a match, that's it. Second, even if you were to change your weapon to better match the lobby, because of the random matchmaking, you might end up on the same team as the squid you were trying to counterpick, which could work out really well for you, but it's like, since you don't have to worry about countering that squid anymore, it's like, why did I bother switching off a playstyle I'm better with, you know? And then come the next match, you switch back because you think you're all good, and boom, the game puts you on opposite teams again. It's that, or sticking with a weapon you're not as good with and overall making your chances worse. Under normal circumstances, sure, you could practice enough to get better at weapons you aren't so good with, but considering I only had so much time to work with until the servers shut down, I didn't see that as much of an option worth taking. Lastly, and this is kind of a big point, you can't technically switch weapons or gear between matches. The only things you can do in a lobby include looking at the lobby screen like you're watching ink dry, and playing one of the several minigames available to you on the Wii U gamepad, which although is nice, also kinda sucks, because all but one of them are locked behind amiibos. Ah well, there's only so much mileage you can get from a knockoff version of Doodle Jump anyway. It's cute though. When you queue up for any sort of match in Splatoon 1, ranked or not, you're in that lobby until either a match finishes, or if not enough players join before the game kicks everyone out. You can't leave while waiting for players unless you disconnect from the internet or turn the game off. So are we gonna explain where everyone just went? What just happened? Why am I alone now? Good game. Even if you stay in the lobby to keep playing after a match, you're not given the option to change your equipment or anything else. You have to keep going with what you have. It's that, or leave the lobby, change what you want fast enough, and hope that when you queue up, it's with the same people you were just with, which can often be a long shot. Sounds stupid? Yeah, it is. I don't know why they did it like this. It took until Splatoon 2 to let you change your equipment between matches, and until Splatoon 3 to let you back out of a lobby, which was added in an update. It wasn't even in the game at launch. No, not keep go- I really fucking hate that. I really do. What? Just having the first option being there, not even like a yes or no, and then you can't even cancel out, which is still somehow a thing. I wanted to swap weapons at least, but I can't do that now. I have to wait for the match to end, or for some communication error, which is probably what's gonna happen. I called it. But hey, at least they got there eventually, I guess, because it really sucks when you have second thoughts about your setup, but can't go back. Or if you just didn't want to play another match, but accidentally hit keep going because your control stick flicked back a little too hard when making the choice to quit. I would say first game problems, but dude, this came out in 2015. Conveniences like this should not have been a hard thing to do, especially when the developers had experience playing other shooters at the time which had this kind of shit figured out. Even Smash 4 let you change characters in between matches online, even on 4 Glory. This kind of stuff is annoying, for sure, but it's not a huge problem, really. It's a stupid inconvenience, but manageable. Again, the matches primarily come down to how good you and your team are, and how well you all work together. The weapons and all that only count for so much, so rather than worry about the weapon balance in a lobby, although it should still be considered, you should mainly focus on good game sense and playing well, because that's what's really gonna win you matches. But I'm still gonna complain about the other stuff. It's not me that's bad, it's the game that's bad!
Ooh, let's see how well that sarcasm ages.
One more thing about lobbies. Whenever a map rotation happens, you'll be kicked out of the lobby you're in, either while you're waiting for more players, or until the match you're in finishes, and be forced to watch the Squid Sisters broadcast about the new maps in rotation. The broadcast only tells you what maps have changed, but the game mode for Ranked will also change, so be sure you look at which game mode is active when you go into Inkopolis Tower before you queue back in. Speaking of which, how about we finally go in depth about how Ranked works? First, there's a couple of general differences for all Ranked game modes in comparison to Turf War. While the maps are shared between every game mode, there are different variants of certain maps with changed layouts to better fit certain game modes. For example, while Arowana Mall might be roughly the same for Rainmaker and Splat Zones, the tower control version of the map differs slightly by removing a couple ramps and changing where some grate platforms are. You also have maps like Anchovy Games that have changes in every game mode, like these raised platforms in Splat Zones, these ramps in Rainmaker, and entirely different spawn areas for tower control along with an added wall on each side. Now wasn't it great seeing visual examples of those map changes between modes in-game? Well, that's all thanks to Splatoon's Recon mode, which lets you freely roam around a multiplayer map. Nice, right? Well, what I didn't know while writing the script was that in Splatoon 1, you can only do this while the map you want to check out is currently in rotation. Not only that, but only for the game mode that's currently active. That means yes, I had to wait for Anchovy Games to be in rotation 4 times for every game mode just for 14 seconds of this video. Sorry, I'm used to Splatoon 3, where the game just lets you check out any map for any mode whenever you want. You know, something that makes sense. Apparently Recon was limited like this in Splatoon 2 as well. Like, what the fuck are we doing? How hard was this to figure out? Sorry for crashing out, I'm just a little tired of working on this project, if you couldn't tell. Back to the video. Also, while every multiplayer map has a version for every game mode, a couple were seemingly taken out of official rotation for Tower Control and Rainmaker, likely due to bad design. That won't stop me from loving Salt Spray Rig. Rather than having matches be 3 full minutes, they're instead extended to a potential 5 minutes, with the match cutting short if one team completes the objective, resulting in a knockout. However, matches can go on for longer than 5 minutes thanks to overtime, which occurs, generally, if the losing team is holding on to the objective when the timer runs out. Then the match ends when the other team either loses the objective or clutches through and pulls ahead of the other team to win. If you end up losing because of overtime, you are legally allowed to cry. Losing a match will take away points from your rank, while winning will add points and give you a nice cash bonus and some experience, even more so if you win via a knockout. Ranks go from C- all the way to S+, and everyone starts at the bottom. Thankfully, it's pretty easy starting off since you'll be getting more points for winning as opposed to losing, with 1 win equaling 2 losses. The higher you get in rank, the closer that difference becomes, with a win and loss being worth the same 10 points from rank B to A+. Though this can change by 2 points more or less depending on... I'm not entirely sure. I think it's either by average player rank in the match, or how high or low your current rank points are. Like being below 30 makes it 12 for a win and 8 for a loss, while being above 70 swaps those values. I think it's the latter, but don't quote me on that. Losing a match with less than 4 players on your team, likely due to a player disconnecting and causing a 3v4, usually only causes you to lose 1 point, regardless of the rank. Once you hit S rank, wins and losses in general become worth half as many points as they were in B to A+, so you'll be playing more in general to try and climb your way up. Also, S and S Plus have their own tiers point-wise that change how many points you get from winning and losing, starting off equal, but eventually having losses take away more points than you get from wins, as opposed to how they scaled points for the previous ranks. A difference of 1 or 2 points might not sound so bad, but when you're getting close to the top of S and losing 2 matches means you have to win 3 more just to get back to where you were, it really starts to wear on you, you know? Especially when you're at the mercy of solo queue and the game's matchmaking, because there's only so much you can do if the team just isn't up to snuff. Including myself, sometimes. And so you might think, well, Zeter, this is a team-based shooter. Why don't you just queue up with friends you can rely on to help you reach S+? You think I look like I got friends?
Why not?
Look, buddy, it's personal. Wouldn't matter anyway. You see, Splatoon 1 has something called squad battles, where you can queue up with friends on your Wii U to play matches together on the same team against other squads. If it's just you and one friend, you'll be paired with another 2-person squad to fight against others, and if it's you and 2 other people, you'll fight against another 3-person squad in 3v3. While this does actually work in ranked, and you can climb your way up for a while, once you hit S and S+, squad battles no longer let you gain or lose points. So while you can play as much as you want in a squad at this point with no repercussions, you also make no progress. Once you hit S rank, you have to solo queue if you want S+.
This also means that, yes, there actually was a way to play ranked game modes outside of friend lobbies without worrying about your rank. But I only learned that near the end of the game's life, and I wouldn't have had anyone to queue up with back then anyhow. So oh well, fuck me, I guess! Maybe it's a metaphor for why loneliness is bad. I don't know. I'll figure this shit out eventually. Ha! I fucking thought so!
Now let's start talking about the game modes themselves, starting with the original ranked mode introduced, Splat Zones. This is basically like King of the Hill, where there are 1 or 2 zones, depending on the map, that each team fights to control. The zone itself must be taken through covering the majority of the selected ground in your team's ink. So while you don't need to splat anyone on the other team to take the area, it helps to stop them from defending their zone or taking control of yours. Having control of these zones gets you closer to winning, which is represented by each team starting at 100 and continuously counting down as long as your team is in control, taking about a full minute to go from 100 to 0. The winner is whoever can get to 0 first, or whoever is closer to 0 after 5 minutes, plus potential overtime. Scoring might seem simple at first, but of course life's not that easy, now is it?
Damn it, this always happens. I think I'm gonna score and then I never score.
If your controlled zone is covered in enough of the enemy team's ink, you'll lose control and the point counter will stop going down. At this point, the zone is still in favor of your team, and you just have to cover enough ground again to get it back and continue the counter. But if the enemy team continues to cover even more ground, then they'll fully take control of the zone, not only starting their counter going down, but also giving your team a penalty.
Oh no, we got a penalty!
This penalty doesn't add to the final score. So if the game ends with your team at 46 with a plus 42 penalty, you're still at 46 and will win if your total is lower than the other team's. What this penalty does is prevent your main score from dropping any further until you've controlled the zones for long enough to get rid of the penalty. While getting far ahead early on in a match might seem like a good thing, if the other team does end up taking control, you'll be hit with a pretty hard penalty. So while you're still holding on to a comfortable lead, you're gonna have to play for a while to either try getting to 0 again, or to at least make sure that you don't lose your lead. It creates a bit of an interesting dilemma. Do you go hard at the start to try and win the match in one go? Or do you hold back early on to secure a better hold for later and not risk having to work around a large penalty? Either way, Splat Zones is certainly no time to be invisible. Next, we have Tower Control, which is also like King of the Hill, but if the hill was actually a payload. The tower starts in the middle of the map, and each team has to move it along a pre-designated path as far as they can. You move the tower by having anyone on your team on top of the tower's platform, with speed increasing for each added team member. You can move the tower both while standing up or while submerged in ink. So if the tower is moving into your base while it looks like no one's on it, keep shooting at that tower because someone from the other team is definitely hiding on there. The tower will only move forward if one team is on the platform, so if anyone from the other team goes on it as well, you'll stop. If no one is on the platform while in enemy territory, eventually the tower will move back into its starting position. This causes the player to make a delicate balance between keeping yourself safe so that you can push the objective, while also not straying too far away from the point to prevent it from moving backward. Or, you know, everyone can just spam squid jumps and specials on the point to continuously apply pressure through sheer stupidity and willpower. Both can work, honestly. Whoever wins is determined by whoever can reach the end of their path first, or whoever pushes the point furthest in 5 minutes, barring overtime. Win or lose, you're definitely gotta be craving some ice cream afterward. Lastly, there's Rainmaker. This game mode falls somewhere in between being a reverse capture the flag and an alternate take on VIP from Team Fortress. The Rainmaker starts off in the middle of the map, with a bubble shield that you have to shoot enough so that it explodes before you can pick it up. The shield also gets reapplied whenever the squid holding the Rainmaker gets splatted and drops it. However, it only pops when covered with enough of one team's ink, so you might end up having to power struggle to overtake the opposing team if you're not fast enough. Ultimately, either team can pick up the Rainmaker once the shield is gone, but the explosion from the shield will match the ink of whichever team pops it. So if your team ends up being the one to take it out, and someone from the other team is in range of the explosion, they're gonna get splatted. Also, touching the shield itself at any point will slightly damage you, so be careful. Once someone is in possession of the Rainmaker, they'll have to try and carry it into enemy territory to make it to their pedestal and slam dunk it into the Rainmaker, which feels as good as it sounds. However, while carrying the Rainmaker, not only are you prevented from using your special and any of your weapons, you move slightly slower and can be seen by everyone at all times. You also have to worry about time, not just because of the match's time limit, but because in 60 seconds, you'll explode! This explosion timer also moves faster when you go back far enough into your own territory, so as to prevent teams who are in the lead from hoarding the Rainmaker unfairly. Which still happens, don't get me wrong, but this at least helps the strat from being too overpowered. Besides, if your team slips up while hoarding the Rainmaker, the other team can end up nabbing it and easily take the lead. With Rainmaker especially, you don't want to get cocky. Whoever has the Rainmaker really has to rely on their team, them making sure they can defend the person carrying the item well enough, while also clearing a path forward to get ahead with making sure they can defend the person carrying the item well enough, while also clearing a path forward to either get ahead or make a run for the goal pedestal. That said, while whoever carries the Rainmaker can't use their usual tools, they're not defenseless as they can still attack with the Rainmaker itself, which works like a chargeable Inkzooka and is really good for taking out vertical targets. It's powerful for sure, but you're still not very mobile and can be taken out pretty easily, especially since you're on that time limit. That about covers the basics of Ranked, and while there are a couple more things to discuss gameplay-wise, I think it's best that we move into the start of my Ranked journey and cover our bases as we go along. We've got a ways to go and a lot of salt to burn, or rather spray, so let's take it back to when I started up Splatoon 1 again for the first time in years to start putting my plan into action. Alright, well, technically this wasn't the first time I went back. I already had the idea to play all the campaigns again in preparation for Side Order coming out, so I thought I'd grind out Splatoon 1's ranked mode only after revisiting the single player, to get me used to how the game played again. Issue is, you can't play the campaign on your save file again in the same way that you did the first time. Instead, I played through it again on my other Wii U to get a full, fresh experience, and to maybe show off some things I wouldn't be able to otherwise. Oh my gosh, I forgot! There is no menu for settings, it's all on the gamepad. Oh my gosh, I haven't played with a Wii U in so long, I'm not used to this anymore. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's just all there, it looks so good. You can, like, touch all the buttons in that. Definitely want some camera sensitivity up. Oh, right, I have to use the touchscreen. I'm still moving in the game. Like, yeah, look at that. It's all controlled through touchscreen. Don't ask how I'm showing this, by the way. It was good. I honestly enjoyed it more than I remembered. Not like Splatoon 2's campaign. They were geniuses. They were ahead of their time. They were Renaissance men. I can't take it anymore. Twinkling. No, there's no good way to say it. Don't say it like, why is this game so horny? It also reminded me just how good the gamepad was with Splatoon. Joy-Cons and the Switch Pro controller work fine enough, but man, the Wii U gamepad really was perfect for this kind of game. Not even for the map being on the gamepad itself, just the weight and feel of it works so naturally well for being able to comfortably aim and shoot at things, even after plenty of time with Splatoon 3. Like, if I'm messing up playing Splatoon 1, it's not the controller, it's me. Conversely, with Splatoon 3, it's still usually me, but I mean, there's a little bit of room for argument. I know I was like, hey, we should be using the Joy-Cons more. Look, we've been streaming for an hour, I think we get it. I don't know, it's so weird. I used to be so, like, dedicated, being like, no, the Joy-Cons are the way to go, but it's just like, I don't know. Pro controllers just feel a lot better. Maybe I'm only saying this for a slight reason. Come on, can we win one match? Of course, single player can only get you so used to online. So for my first session back on my main Wii U, I decided to focus on reacquainting myself with some regular old turf war. This was not just to practice, but to also get a feel for how populated the servers were, how good the internet connection was, and to figure out what playstyle I was gonna go with. You see, back in the day, I was an Aerospray MG main. I know, get it out of your systems. What can I say, it inked turf well, I could shoot well enough with it, I liked seeker bombs and having a big fuck you bazooka. One of my favorite things to do was go to Arowana Mall and spam seekers down the big hill in the middle for easy splats. That's all fine and dandy for turf war, but for more focused, objective-based game modes where people are playing for keeps, I figured I'd need something with more general coverage, not just ink coverage. That goes for the sub and special too, which makes choosing a weapon for ranked tricky. Even if I really liked a particular weapon, if the sub and special for one of a weapon's different kits doesn't agree with me, I have to look elsewhere. Hell, that's half the reason I stuck with the MG back in the day. That's also the reason I ended up swapping from the Aerospray to the NZAP 89 in Splatoon 2, because Seekers and the Inkzooka were removed in that game, and I needed a solid shooter with a good kit. Besides, autobombs and Tentamissiles were their own kind of fun. You know, I find it ironic that the Splatoon I played the least of probably had the strongest weapon I mained, or at least the most toxic. This also ended up being the case for Splatoon 3, where after some time, I ended up maining an NZAP again, at least once the 89 got added back in, because man, I really just like having autobombs. I just haven't had the time to really do anything. He ran into that. He really ran into that. Funny I mentioned the 89, because that's actually what I ended up sticking with as my main for ranked tier. I knew I was best with shooters, so I wanted to use one with good range and fire rate that also didn't require me to use an extra brain cell to keep mashing the fire button during combat, like with the nozzle noses. I wanted to use one, I really did. Look at the cherry nozzle nose, it's beautiful, but I just can't mash like that in tense situations. The other NZAP kits weren't bad by any means, and I certainly considered using the 85, but the Sprinkler and the Ink Strike on the 89 seemed to have the best general use between each ranked game mode, at least for me. Like, the Splat Bomb is a great sub for offense and applying pressure, but it eats up quite a bit of your tank, and I was worried about being too offensive with them and putting myself in bad scenarios where I don't have enough ink to save myself or the objective. This isn't Smash. I can't spam them like I do there. The Sprinkler, on the other hand, is a good way to hold an area down turf-wise that you don't have to think about much or worry about overusing. The 85's echolocator shows where the enemy team is for roughly 9 seconds, which is very helpful, but doesn't give you any added firepower. If 2 people on the team end up having it, your offensive capabilities are kind of lacking. The Ink Strike on the 89, however, is a fucking nuke.
And you entered into the wrong fucking arena. If you want to do that, you should go to the schoolyard and try to get into some discourse with some people that are still in like the 3rd and the 4th fucking grade, because I'm coming packed with nuclear bombs here.
You can activate it anywhere and shoot it anywhere by selecting an area on the gamepad, which although is telegraphed enough, doesn't really matter if you put it right on the objective, which sounds broken. But trust me, there's a lot of broken things in Splatoon 1. The Ink Strike is just one of them. Hey, speaking of broken, we also gotta figure out our gears and abilities. Oh god, I haven't talked about gear and abilities yet. Okay, well, gear is simple. You got a headgear, a shirt, and a pair of shoes. The gear itself is just fashion. It's the abilities they carry that are what's important. There's no gear with mismatched color to make people confused. It's not TF2 at least. Each piece of gear has a main ability and up to 3 sub-abilities, so 3 main abilities and 9 subs altogether. If a piece of gear has less than 3 sub-slots, you can upgrade it using Super C-Slugs, or with money if you don't have any. Main abilities will boost stats, if applicable, by 10 ability points, or AP, while sub-abilities only boost stats by 3 AP. While having multiple of the same ability does stack for a bigger boost, you get diminishing returns the more you do so, incentivizing variety. This will not stop people from having way too many run speed ups in their setup, but no, live your life, come get your ass kicked faster, whatever. The main ability of each piece of gear is preset and can't be changed. So for example, the school uniform will always have its main ability be ink recovery up. Some abilities are also only available as main abilities and are only available on a specific kind of gear, so you can only have something like ink resistance up as a main ability for your shoes. Sub-abilities are more customizable, but also a little more complicated. You actually have to grind out experience in order for your gear to unlock their sub-abilities, and even once you do so, they're completely random. Well, almost. Depending on the fictional brand of clothing, you'll have a higher or lower chance of getting a certain sub-ability. Although clothing made by Krakon favors swim speed up, Rockenberg clothing will unfavor it and get that ability less. While it's still random, if you want to try to stack for a specific sub, you'd best pick the corresponding gear brand that also hopefully has a main ability you want as well. Yeah, I'm not doing that shit. Just unlocking the subs is grindy enough, but getting a full stack of the same 3 or even just 2 on one piece of gear when you have to rely on luck is not something I care to deal with. Sure, you can re-roll your abilities with Super Sea Snails, or money if you run out and are level 20 or higher, to try and get exactly what you want, but I'm not trying to run some super specialist build here. The Super Sea Snails, by the way, weren't just limited to being Splatfest rewards. You can get them from Judd, who gives one out for every 30 matches you win, ranked or regular. But again, even with my stockpile from back in the day, I don't want to grind like that. While the main abilities can give you some useful gameplay stuff, sub-abilities are generally smaller buffs that can help, but won't save you if you aren't just competent at the game. I'll take the slight buffs I get for the gear I choose for their main abilities, and I'm good. Hey, GG, good games, good games. As for what I went with, there were 2 main abilities I knew I wanted, and that was Stealth Jump and Strength Up. Stealth Jump I've always loved, at least in Splatoon 1 before they nerfed it in later games. When you super jump normally, there's an indicator of where you're going to land that the other team can camp if unprotected. Stealth Jump removes that indicator, leading to some downright dirty surprises.
We're gonna get those terrorists. Now watch this drive.
To compensate, your super jump is significantly slowed so it's not too spammy, and while you can counter it by having quick super jump, you lose out on another ability slot if you do so. Mind you, it's still very good, enough so that I was fine dealing with the slower jump speed. Strength Up makes your main weapon stronger, plain and simple. Certain weapons especially benefit from it, as stacking enough of this ability can make weapons that shouldn't one-shot do exactly that. Or it helps other weapons by making indirect shots just strong enough that you can land one good hit and then a weaker hit and still kill in 2 shots. Or it can help with chargers by making it so that you don't have to charge as much to one-shot. Big surprise, a lot of people use this one. Maybe a little too much. Granted, there is also Defense Up, which kind of counters this, but Strength Up is still generally more useful, so don't be surprised when you see people triple stacking it for their main abilities. In my case, I just wanted a bit of extra security in situations where my aim wasn't so good, whether because of nerves or a bad mental state, as well as to counter Defense Up so that I didn't get confused when I didn't splat someone in 4 or 5 shots. For the third main ability, I wasn't dead set on anything at first, and I ended up going with Swim Speed Up at the start. Better movement's always good to have. Admittedly, I was also choosing my gear based on what I had, because I only had like a full page for each gear piece. Thought I got more back in the day, but then I remembered that I spent my money on weapons instead because I wanted more gameplay options. Oh, the irony. The gear I ended up going with was the squid hair clip with swim speed up, partly to rep my smash ult, the crazy arrows with stealth jump, and the squid girl tunic for strength up. Oh right!
Stop acting so stupid!
Yeah, there wasn't really a good time to bring it up until now, but along with the other promotional stuff for Splatfests, Splatoon also crossed over with Squid Girl, a manga and anime about a humanoid squid girl called Squid Girl, who wants to take over the world as revenge for polluting the ocean, but ends up working at a beachside restaurant and slowly becoming a part of their family. I had known about Squid Girl for a while, even before the collaboration, because I think it was on Netflix. And while it was and still is cool that it happened, I actually only watched the show a little bit before doing Ranked here. Not even as part of the plan, it just kinda ended up that way after I finished watching Nichijou. It's good, you know. I think the episodes can be hit or miss, but it's a decently fun watch overall. The show kinda has that 2000s comedy anime vibe I love so much with shows like Sergeant Frog, so that helps. What doesn't help is the older girl in the show named Sane, who creeps on Squid Girl because she's very, very into her.
Just give me that smile for once.
Oh, it's sex offender.
Who for some reason gets a lot more screen time in Season 2.
This is a lap pillow. My cringe car or embarrassing ink car?
You ain't feel bad at all? Like no guilt, none of that shit fucking with you?
I've seen Splatoon porn that's less horny for squids than this woman.
Seriously, dude, what the f are you talking about, man?
Oh, I'm saying it.
No-life nerd who's never gotten pussy before in his entire life.
It's a no-brainer as to why this crossover happened, and it gave us some neat promotional art and a gear set of the Squid Girl's main outfit, which I'll partly be using for my ranked journey. Just keep Sane away from the game. Do not tell her about white ink in later games. And I don't, if you're disappointed in anything going on right now, it doesn't get much worse than this. I know this all seems a bit long-winded and disjointed in terms of talking about Splatoon 1, but I wanted to explain things in a way that matched how I experienced the game myself. I didn't really do Ranked until this point, so why cover it in detail when talking about when the game was new and I was only playing Turf War and Splatfests? Ranked isn't what I remember about my time with Splatoon back in the day. It's what I remember about it when it was dying. There was a goal for me, and I wanted to get there, but with only so much time, I had to figure things out fast. Alright, we've got our weapon, we've got our gear and abilities, and we know how Ranked works. Now, all we have to do is get into some matches, win enough times, and get our rank up to S+. Simple, right? I mean, it's Splatoon, come on. It's an online Wii U game. This shouldn't be too hard. Besides, at this point, we have 3 whole months until the servers shut down. What could go wrong?
I'm about to act a damn fool, pack a damn tool, sticks on the table like a nigga playing pool.
So it begins.
Dressed for success, I stood at the bottom of Inkopolis Tower, ready to climb my way to the top of Ranked. I wish I could say the same for my rank as well, but like I mentioned earlier, I had played a bit of Ranked back in the day so that I didn't seem like a total super chump. So rather than going all the way from C- to S+ for this video, we actually have a head start here by beginning at B. Oh no, now I can't use the catchy tagline for my YouTube video title that I change in a few hours after posting so that it does better in the algorithm, because even though I might do this for a living, I apparently can't think of an effective title or thumbnail for the project months in the making.
Get better! Get better! Get better!
We're not even in the tower and I'm already being toxic. Let's just go already. A/B testing my ass. Back in my day, you just have to get... Alright, the first maps we got are Walleye Warehouse and Camp Triggerfish with Splat Zones. Good stuff. Let's queue into a match and start our domination. Okay, well, let's try that again. My boy! We tried, Vivi. We tried. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, I think you see the problem now. It shouldn't be a surprise that a game like this, released on a low-selling console that's almost 9 years old by the time I'm going back to it, while it has 2 sequels out on a much more successful console, doesn't have a ton of people playing it at all times. At least in the case of Ranked. If you just wanted to play Turf War, getting into a game whenever was fairly easy, because there's no worry of a rank, and you match up with anyone who wants to play. With Ranked, not only is there the stress of it being for keeps, but since you only match up with people in the same letter grade, who you're able to play with is even more limited. I was hoping with the announcement of the Wii U and 3DS servers shutting down that it would get more people to come back to Splatoon 1, so I don't have to worry about long queue times for this, but it wasn't as effective at doing so as I thought it might have, at least at this point. Because of this, my first actual match for my first session ended up finally happening 20 minutes after I started. A match that, after everyone on my team booyah'd and rolled out, lasted 37 seconds. This is gonna be a long journey, isn't it? Now usually, once you do get a full server of people in Ranked, it's thankfully not too hard to get more matches by that point, since you can all just stay or rejoin after the match to get another one going. In this session, however, things didn't exactly go down like that. Since not everyone stayed, we couldn't immediately go into another match and had to re-queue several times. In fact, I'm pretty sure most everyone else got into a match without me due to them not showing up while I was waiting here. By the time I got my second match, it ended up being another 22 minutes of wait time, 45 minutes after I started. While this ended up being a more substantial match, it ended up being a loss. At this skill level, I'm good enough that I can go against most of the opposite team and kick some ass, but since I'm still relearning, and in some cases, discovering, the maps, as well as figuring out the motions of Rainmaker, they ended up slipping by us. And I ended up with slightly less rank points than I started. Thankfully, match 3 was only 6 minutes later. It was looking like a slosher sweep from the other team at first, because my brain wasn't already broken enough by this point. But even without a full special meter, I had more than one way to drop an ink strike from above. We pushed back hard and took a strong lead, but past that, most of the match was a mix of careful positioning and dumb luck. Not just beneficial dumb luck, either. The time ran out, and we kept our lead. Another win. And that's it for session 1. It's not much, but 1, we're further than we started, and 2, this was after an hour, with less than 10 minutes of that being actual gameplay. Considering how the lobby looked after match 3, I had a feeling I'd be waiting for a while, so I just called it there. But, because my devilish curiosity started to take over, I wanted to test something. I checked out Splatoon 1 on Twitch to see if anyone was playing Turf War that I could attempt to stream snipe. Surely it wouldn't be that hard, right? Not at all. Like, first try.
Lex doesn't have a Wii U.
I like your cut, G.
Maybe it's not a good idea to rush mid with these people.
With these people?
Yeah, look at them. Look at them. Look at them.
Though, I didn't even get to splat them once, even in matches where I was cooking the whole rest of the team and we handily won. Ah well. After the long-ass wait times in the first session, I started to think about ways that I could, not deal with that shit, or at least alleviate the waiting somewhat. That's when it hit me. I'm American! Splatoon as a franchise is primarily popular in Japan. That goes for their first game as well. I mean, a good chunk of people I played with in the first session were Japanese. If I wanted to have less wait times, I needed to play when people were more active. And I figured the best time for that was when Japan was wide awake in the middle of the day. As someone who lives within the EST time zone, this is an obvious problem for me. Tokyo, for example, is 13 hours ahead of me, which means their 2:30 p.m. is my 1:30 a.m. On the one hand, I'm a night owl who is staying up until 4 in the morning anyway, so I could just make a routine of playing an hour or two of Splatoon before going to bed.
I'm feeling evil. I'm feeling like some sort of demented creature.
On the other hand, This shit's not healthy for me in the first place, especially when I would get morning work shifts on the weekend, and ranked Splatoon stress ain't gonna help. Especially since either way, I'd have to play at the end of the day when I'm the most tired, which isn't great for competitive gameplay. But playing this late ended up being a constant for me, as it did usually yield more players and, generally, less waiting. Session 2 is a perfect example of why, as I ended up playing 8 matches in less than an hour, almost 3 times the amount of Session 1 in the same time frame.
Now some of you might be thinking, wouldn't this make things even harder for you, since you'd be going primarily against Japanese players? Aren't they really good at games, especially Splatoon? First, it's 4v4. I'd have Japanese teammates as well, so that wouldn't really matter. Second, it's ranked. No matter where you're from, a B tier player is only a B tier player. Once we get to S rank, of course other players are going to be really good. That's how it's supposed to be. Third, I think that going against a player and thinking they're automatically cracked just because they're Japanese or from some different part of the world is both stereotypical and, frankly, a weak-ass mindset. I'm not gonna see someone's name in hiragana or katakana and think, oh, I'm fucked. No, I'm only thinking that when I see a blaster. It's ranked. I'm gonna be locked in at all times regardless. It doesn't matter who's on the other team. I've just gotta be better.
It didn't even take a full minute to get into my first match after putting myself in rotation, this time being Splat Zones for real in Museum d'Alfonsino and Port Mackerel. Actually, besides one time where I had to wait about 7 minutes, I never had to wait much more than 3 minutes to get into a full server. Not only were wait times short, but I was winning matches left and right. Things got off to a rough start, as after almost an entire match where we were in the lead by the end, the connection somehow went unstable and fucked up the match, which was frustrating because it definitely seemed like I wasn't the only one who had this issue here. But I still ended up losing 10 ranked points because of it. Actually, the only other match I lost this session was also due to connection issues, as someone from my team left 10 seconds in, probably to go grab his non-existent Ethernet cable.
Wi-Fi, huh?
I was actually on Wi-Fi this whole time. Thankfully, this only led to us losing 1 point each. But otherwise, yeah, this session went pretty smoothly for me. I definitely still had my amateurish moments here and there, like making a risky habit of rushing the mid on Museum d'Alfonsino to throw a sprinkler high up on the enemy side, which usually led to me eating shit, but more often than not, I'm showing off how my general skill level is above most of the other players in B rank. This ain't a roadblock for me, it's a pit stop. Having Ink Strike was definitely helping me as well, as it's a pretty optimal special for Splat Zones. Throw that baby onto a zone, and while it won't outright capture it, it'll most likely halt control for the other team. And when it's being used against you, you can still try to shoot into the Ink Vortex to keep some turf. Or, you know, you can just counter with another Ink Strike. Museum d'Alfonsino is a pretty straightforward map for this, considering it's just a battle for mid in an open trench, but Port Mackerel is more tricky since there's 2 splat zones on each side of mid. Ink Strike still won't capture a zone outright, even with them being smaller, so you have to make sure your team can follow up on it, otherwise it's a waste of a special. Even then, keeping both zones to get points is a tough balancing act. You gotta go deep to get to the other zone, but while still making sure someone from the other team doesn't sneak around to get your own. The grid-like narrow paths can also be pretty hard to move through. It's like when you're fighting Vulcan Raven in MGS1.
The form is different, but the spirit is the same. Rejoice, Snake!
Getting even a small lead on this map is very valuable, as you can see. Still, I cooked plenty in this session, though I will say that having competent teammates who could pick up for some of my slack definitely helped. Within the hour, I had made the jump from B rank to B+. It only took me about 8 years to finally do so, but we move. Hey, remember what I said about less waiting? Yeah, how about almost 30 minutes until we had enough people for the first match? There are whole Weezer albums you can listen to in that time. All that just for a match where I got sniped like this. How? This session got shaky for sure, but not so much because of wait times. Honestly, this is kind of how things go from this point. On occasion, you'll have to wait a long while to get going, but it's usually between 2 to 6 minutes, and sometimes it's immediate. It's just kind of how things are with doing this. If anything, I'm just grateful that I can play it all and with some kind of consistency. What made this session rough for me was a string of losses right at the start. Even with some nice plays on my part, my teams were still too overwhelmed and couldn't clutch the win. It's especially crushing with matches like this, where you're playing for most, if not all of the time given, trying your hardest, and maybe even holding on to a lead for most of that time, but it's just not enough. This is part of what makes ranked gameplay like this tough, because when all of your efforts ultimately result in losses and you drop in points, it's a solid hit to your morale. Losing like this can make you question a lot of things, and potentially wonder about things that don't necessarily have the concrete answers that you want. Was the other team just better? Did my team suck? Did I suck? Did my approach suck? Or was it just luck? This was the beginning of me falling into such a mindset, and with being at the very bottom of B+, with one loss bringing me back to B rank, I decided to switch things up and try using my Aerospray MG. This was for 2 reasons. 1, I was thinking that if I used the Aerospray so much back in the day, maybe I was just better with it, or the weapon itself was better, in Splatoon 1 specifically. 2, one of the maps in rotation then was Camp Triggerfish, a map with some very long paths that were very good for throwing seeker bombs down. Of course, this was a risk since getting that map was up to chance, but I was hopeful enough that I was good enough with the Aerospray regardless that I could still do well on Blackbelly Skate Park, where seekers aren't nearly as useful. Sure enough, we get a strong lead in the first match, and despite the other team's best efforts with whatever the hell this was, I kinda just kill it enough to get us the win. Which, like I thought, the Seekers barely helped. I don't even make good plays with the Inkzooka other than applying a bit of pressure. But that doesn't stop me from going off and getting a solo team wipe to finish the job. Look, I got more than twice the amount of splats as anyone on the server. This isn't me just glazing myself. Maybe a little. For the rest of this session, the Aerospray was here to stay. Though I will say, for as much as I like the Inkzooka, I barely make any good plays with it this session. Honestly, it was just as effective against me than it was for me. However, once I started getting matches on Triggerfish, those Seeker Bombs really came in handy. Maybe I got a little overzealous with their usefulness here and there. Like, what the fuck was that, Cedar? But really, it got nasty with how good they were at points, even when I was feeling the shortcomings of the Aerospray's shorter range. Which is weird, because when I go back to Skate Park in this rotation, it's more the opposite. I'm hardly using my other tools in the kit, but I'm still splatting and schmoving regardless, like the lesser range doesn't matter. It probably is a mindset thing. I mean, looking at some of my plays in Triggerfish rounds, I'm getting awfully greedy with Seekers to the point where I'm just doing dumb shit. I mean, this Charger was annoyingly good at splatting me, to the point where I petty kill them later on, but like, why would I ever go for a move like this? Oh, because I still got a splat from it anyway. You see what I mean? That kind of shit leads to me getting sloppy. Like, this last match should not have been a clutch at the end here, but I keep walking off the map like a moron. My team stopped the tower regardless to win. Oh jeez, look at my KD ratio. And I was able to end the session a little over halfway through B+. Yeah, leave that taken. Back to Splat Zones, and back to the NSAP. Even with Triggerfish still in rotation, I swapped back because I didn't think Seekers would be as useful here. Unlike other versions of the map, there's no bridge in the middle for Splat Zones to make throwing out Seekers easy. And when you have to fight across a gap like this, I thought having a weapon with more range and access to Ink Strike was probably the better call. Much like Port Mackerel, it's hard to get both zones here, but while getting the lead is still essential, here it's relatively easy to keep. With a different layout for Splat Zones, however, flanking becomes very useful here, so long as the other team has their back turned or is distracted, and that paired with a well-timed Ink Strike can lead to some solid results, especially if you do it twice. Probably shouldn't have won this match considering the best plays for us were basically the other team letting things happen to them, but we clutched those.
Tell them to bring out the whole ocean. You think it's a game, huh?
Urchin Underpass is another battle for mid in a trench type situation, but I learned very early on that the signs and stuff above the zone is a prime spot to place a sprinkler. It's somewhat hard to shoot down, and covers a good amount of ground for a better hold, even on the other side when you're pushing in. Fantastic defensive option. Really, NZAP seemed to be working really well for the first few matches here, including getting me possibly the easiest team wipe of my career. But one bad loss was apparently enough to have me swap back to Aero Spray. Probably because after getting splatted like this once, I was sorely missing having Seekers and the Inkzuka for better offense. Not to knock non-offensive options, as in the next match, we get a lot out of our teammates' bubble shield. I guess I just felt more confident with using Aero Spray at this point. Which, hey, maybe I was right for thinking, since despite some hurdles, I still get another team wipe with basically the whole enemy team taking me on and... Oh, maybe I should have focused on the point for a bit. Oops. Well, one mental slip up aside, I do end up doing really well. Turns out, Seeker Bombs were still really dominant here, but I think that was more because the teams we got matched against were a little short-sighted. Like me when I'm driving on the highway at 80. Although you didn't hear that from me. I know we're only in B+, but come on, they shouldn't be getting hit by some of these.
Great shot.
You okay, Patrick?
Honestly, matchmaking had just as much of an impact as my own ability to dominate did. Still, it's a smooth ride to finish off B+ and get into A-, only an hour after starting the session. Good, because I had no right to be doing this as late as I was. Seriously, it's still January by this point. There's no rush. Why the fuck was I starting at 2:30 a.m.?
Hold up, wait a minute. I'm getting to it, bro. Watch this kickflip, dude. I'm getting to it.
Okay, well, so much for January. It took me over a week to start playing again because of doing other projects, school, work, life shit. And good news, after playing for about 2 hours this session, it led to nowhere. Okay, 9 points further than where I started, but that's equivalent to 1 win of progress. Again, after 2 hours. This is where I start to lose faith in the Aero Spray. I actually started with NZAP and won a round, but I swap off, I guess because it was too close for comfort. Along with that, Arowana Mall was in rotation, the map I remember most from back in the day because I would spam Seekers down the big hill in the middle using the Aero Spray MG. It doesn't go as well as my memories. I still get a couple squids like that, and I mean, I'm still making some good plays otherwise, but things more often than not weren't working out for me. I'll be real though, I think I was putting the results on the weapon too much, because looking back at the footage, I was just kinda playing like ass. Seriously, why the fuck am I fumbling a super jump kill like this with an Inkzuka? I follow up on it later, but like the damage has already been done, your mental is fucked, buddy. Regardless of weapon choice, another thing that was messing me up was Bubble Shield. It's basically a light Uber charge, so if you're about to splat someone in a 1v1, they can pop that thing on for an easy reversal. Or if they use it while you're in an unfavorable position, you kinda just have to die. Either way, things weren't going so well for me. We had a match where we got all the way to 5, that's an insane lead, and we still lost with 16 seconds left. That's a fumble that would make anyone go crazy. At this point, I'm frustrated as hell and think, maybe I should start using Bubble Shield if it's kicking my ass so much. So after a bit of testing, I switched to the Cherry H3 Nozzle Nose with Bubble Shield and Inkwall. Unfortunately, I don't get used to its unique rate of fire, with having to continuously press shoot rather than holding the button down. Inkwall ends up not gelling with me at all, and I find out that when one special isn't giving me trouble, another one can easily take its place. This wasn't gonna work, although the Nozzle Nose weapon type itself was still doing well enough for me, with the 1-2-3 fire rate, one-shotting and feeling so good. So I tried out the H3 Nozzle Nose D with Point Sensor and Inkzuka. The Point Sensor can be thrown to reveal an enemy's position if hit with it, which I thought would be useful enough to ignore its lack of offense. And honestly, The weapon's range and power, the utility of seeing enemies with point sensor for both you and your team, along with what you can do with an Inkzuka, it's all pretty good together. I felt good with it, played good, and won a few matches at first, but soon after, it was apparent to me that my unfamiliarity with the weapon held me back more than I would have liked, and I suffered some pretty taxing losses. Now ultimately, these were tough matches that we probably would have had to clutch anyway to win, but those moments where I felt like I could have done better but were held back by something, like the Nozzle Nose's fire rate tripping me up in tense situations, still eat away at the mental like nothing else. It leads to me thinking stuff like, that wouldn't have happened if I was using NZAP, so why aren't I using NZAP? I still gave the H3D a fair shot and tried to use it more, and while it's not bad at all, it didn't click with me the way I wanted it to. You missed easy shots like this on the guy with Rainmaker, you tell yourself it's not working out, and it's over. That would not have happened to me with a more continuous fire rate, believe me.
Are you sure about that?
Even with a good double kill to finish, helped in part by the point sensor, I'm just not feeling it with barely any progress made this session. Sadly though, this would not be the end of my weapon choice crisis. Speaking of crisis... No, you're seeing this right. I took over a month to play again. It's not that my morale was crushed after last time. Well, maybe partly. I just had other things going on. You know, college classes on the weekdays, work and homework on the weekends, recording other videos. Oh, good, yeah, back to work. That's what I want. This is what happens. I lose and I go to work. This is what Splatfests are for me now. Spring break happened and Side Order came out for Splatoon 3, which I binged hard then, and the ranked stuff for Splatoon 1 ended up falling to the wayside.
I'm also a nasty procrastinator, you know, speaking of college. Hey, there's still plenty of time left. I can do it, whatever. I just might have to binge a little bit if I have to. I dumbassedly told myself. Meanwhile, in this massive time gap, I'm still squarely at A-. And now there's less than a month until the server shut down. Oh boy, what have I done?
Believe it or not playing the game for over a month has an impact on how you play. Dumb decisions, not realizing a map has different paths in Rainmaker and having to watch the enemy walk by with it, and starting the match with your gamepad dying because its battery life is 1 minute due to age. I was on a charging cable this whole time. It wasn't the best. I didn't realize replacement batteries were like 20 bucks, sue me. But it's okay, we're back with the Aerospray MG again, and once I've got a clear head, I super jump back in. Okay, well, these things happen. I super jump back in. Come on! I super jump back in. I get on top of the objective. We clutched at the end because someone on their team disconnected. Yay. Nice. Well, a rough start aside, this session overall still goes well, but not without its hiccups. For starters, this was basically the first time I ever played on anchovy games. Moving platforms are the gimmick here, where you shoot propellers to do so, which you'll likely be doing often to keep good footing. It's kind of like the middle of the map is a big main activity room, while the areas closer to spawn are like hallway lobbies. So pushing objectives further than about halfway gets real harrowing. Not that you could tell from the matches I played here, because there were a lot of Rainmaker knockouts on both maps. This was mainly due to 3 things. The usual Seeker spam at Triggerfish, Stealth Jump getting me way too many cheeky plays off, and continuously having cracked teams, specifically with this dude named Lord Zayden. After getting crushed in this one Anchovy Games match, we got like 5 matches in a row together, and it was just roll after roll. Our team dynamic was just unstoppable for a while there. I thought I was gonna fly right into A rank. Then they got put on the other team, and I immediately started losing. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier with matchmaking gambling. Best case, I keep getting paired with Lord Zayden, and we steamroll matches. Worst case, I end up going against them, I struggle, and most likely lose. Cause like, I'm competent. Competent enough, but that doesn't make up for not having a proper team dynamic. In the middle of all this, the maps rotated, and so we went to Flounder Heights and Piranha Pit with tower control. I also changed back to NZAP, thinking it would be a better fit for the maps. And yet, Lord Zayden was still on the other team. 20 splats, oh my lord. I wonder who was making the difference here. And that was the last I ever saw of them. At the very least, he got me more wins than losses. Godspeed, Lord Zayden. With them gone, now I didn't have to worry about a specific X factor to win or lose the match. Now I was just plain losing. Well, okay, I lost one right after because a teammate disconnected right at the start. Yeah, I was really feeling the international Wii U internet connection during some of these matches, because regardless of the disconnect, shit was happening on my screen that you did not have to see to believe. But even with a disconnect, it was a surprisingly close match, and we only lost 1 point from it. After that, things went well for me. Flounder Heights is honestly a great map, highlighting more vertical gameplay, which is something I really appreciate and enjoy in Splatoon. But tower control here is weird, because instead of it being at the top of the hill like the Rainmaker is, it's lower down in between the buildings. This leads to usually fighting above it to create a safe enough environment that you can start moving the tower around. You'll still have to fight a lot past that to get around their base, but it's a cool layer of complexity that I work well in. Piranha Pit, conversely, is pretty flat and standard for tower control. Funnily enough, I remember this map more from Splatoon 2 thanks to my time with it during a Splatfest or two. There's these side areas of the map that are basically useless, aside from building special and maybe flanking, I guess, because the tower only goes around the middle area of the map. That's right, it's purely a battle for mid, just like any argument made about any gacha game ever. Ignore that the tower just kinda clips through the conveyor belts here. Cube-based technology is tricky. We don't have the Octolinks to help with that at this point in time. What works well for me here is this middle area having very good walls to throw sprinklers on, especially if you're able to land it right on the top for prime turf coverage. The struggle for this map is getting past the halfway point, as even though the second half is usually tougher for tower control, the halfway point is the most congested part of the distance, so it gives the other team plenty of room to work with to splat you and your teammates on the tower. Past that, it's pretty easy, since you're working with a more open area, even with it being on the enemy's side, but if you lose the tower and it moves back or past the halfway point, good luck trying to push it further again. But yeah, I did really well for these next few matches. For one match, we ended up pulling through almost a 40-point lead on us, which caused someone on the other team to rage quit, and because of that, we only got 6 points for the best feeling win of the night. It didn't stop me from playing a very stupid match afterward, complete with a teammate squid bagging. You didn't fucking earn that, knock it off. Me getting blocked by a fucking pipe on the wall that caused me to get splatted, and me waiting for my teammates to jump to me to help take the point, and them not doing that. But it all worked out anyway, and in the end, I got a solid win streak that put me right into A rank. It might have taken me a while to get back into the game, but at least we're making good progress. This session was the dream, man. Shit went down smoother than hot Dr. Pepper. Which, like, you know, you gotta boil the sauce and let it warm up at first. A loss at the start is perfectly fine, but once the heat comes on, it's glorious all the way to the last drop slipping down your jimmy. It's one loss, then a pure winning streak to A+. It does not get better than this. Really, it doesn't.
I don't think I'm special. My mother always said I'm not special.
Splat zones are back in play, back with Museum D'Alfonsino and Salt Spray Rig, the only form of Salt Spray Rig in Ranked. I love this shitty map, I really do. Granted, it works well enough for splat zones, since it allows itself to narrow down on a specific area that isn't too unfocused or bullshit, but it can still be frustrating with having the losing team fight an uphill battle where trying to flank either gives you limited options or makes you very vulnerable. You really feel the roles on this map. But when it is more balanced, I just have a lot of fun with how segmented the main area is. You get good cover for fights, and it allows you to shoot around the area well enough to capture or hold the zone without being too out in the open. It's hard to describe, but it almost feels more like a typical shooter when you're in the thick of the zone. It could be from how much I enjoy the aesthetical value of the map, like I can feel the saltwater breeze here. Could also be from nostalgia, from being one of the first 2 maps in the global test fire. I don't know, I do get pissed off playing here more than I'd like, more later on than here, but I can't help but be fond of it. Even if it's a prime example of certain maps in this game completely ignoring large chunks of themselves for the sake of ranked, like what I was talking about with Piranha Pit earlier. Now that's a first game problem I can understand. Splatoon 3, I know people are giving you shit for your maps and your flat level design, all you gotta do is add Salt Spray. Add Salt Spray and you can do shit like this. That was... well look, it was still fun. Now, when I say things went smoothly, I mean that from the perspective of the results, because when you watch the matches themselves, it's kinda rough. I'm pretty sure it was this session that taught me the value of trading. It's fine if I get splatted, so long as I take someone with me to balance things out. There's value in making sure a 4v4 becomes a 3v3 instead of a 3v4. Plus, I could just stealth jump back, usually with a good chunk of special meter. Though, sometimes I doubted that stealth jump was even working for me, because dying immediately this many times in a row is just downright unlucky. Does that stop me from trying? No.
I just know something bad is going to happen. You must be nuts. The things I do for love.
Stealth jumping ended up coming back around for me, even with my less than stellar aim. Honestly, I'm still surprised we won some of these matches with how close they were. Stuff like this ended up becoming what I would think of when I was going up against tough leads later on to remind me to never give up, because you never know if things are gonna turn around. Which sounds corny, I know, but sometimes you really need that motivation here. Of course, some matches really were plain easy, like enemies walking right into me, or not looking at me when I'm shooting at them, kind of easy. Things didn't look so easy, I made sure to wait for my team before making a move. You know, like how you should play in a team-based shooter. I'd say I was playing sensibly, but you and I both know I fucked around when I thought I could get away with it. And in this session, that worked out incredibly well. In only an hour, I went from the start of A rank to A+. With still more than 3 weeks left and only 2 more ranks to go, my self-esteem was through the roof. At this rate, I'd be done in no time and have plenty of fun doing it. Right? So, the longest session I had before this was about 2 hours. This one was 4.5. Granted, it wasn't for nothing. I did finish with some notable progress made, but I still wasn't able to get out of A+ in all that time. Here I was thinking, nah bro, just one more game or two and I'll turn things around and get that rank up. And then bam, it's almost 5 in the morning. This is exactly the shit I was worried about both back in the day and now. So let's break down how things went. For the first rotation, we have Arowana Mall and Bluefin Depot on Splat Zones. Since Arowana Mall was active, I decided to use the Aerospray MG for the Seeker Bombs down mid strat. I then proceeded to get 3 matches in a row for Bluefin Depot, losing every single one in a knockout. I wasn't even playing that bad or anything, we just got crushed. I did well in the first match at least, okay? Though, even with some good performance on my part, I still felt the struggle of the Aerospray's wider shot spread getting in the way of hitting my targets. Plus, Seeker Bombs were less than ideal for Bluefin, and after 3 losses in a row, with 1 more dropping my rank, I decided to go back to using the NZAP 89 for its better reliability. And sure enough, the next match was at Arowana Mall. I played like ass this match too. I must have been shook by those earlier losses and my rank being at risk because I'm missing so many shots and getting splatted way too much. I'm mad at myself watching the footage, like how am I fumbling this bad? We end up clutching, and not necessarily because I start doing better, but because the other team gets way too overconfident and becomes worse than me. This really came down to us taking control in the last minute, and if they had taken the zone at any point in the last 30 seconds, it was back to A rank for me. I'm so stressed after this that I take a minute before requeuing just to relax myself. You would think getting 2 quick wins via knockout right after would also help, but I don't get any splats in either match, so my confidence still isn't all there, even with a nice counter ink strike to win the second. Next match helped a lot though, with getting off another counter ink strike and getting some good splats for a win, and hey, wait a sec. Joy P was someone I was playing with at the end of my last session in A rank. Cool. That's kind of a nice part of not having too many people playing the game by this point. I got to see familiar faces more often. Not too much, but it happened. The rest of my time with these maps was a little back and forth, but once I was able to wrap my head around sticking with the end zap and I got down to my usual strats for said maps in Splat Zones, I was doing pretty well. More wins than losses with quite a bit of knockouts, and while everyone, including myself, had their fair share of fumbles, some worse than others. Nope, staying here. Nope, I'm staying here. Okay, fine. How about this? Where is he? Where is he? God! I was on track to be ranking up pretty soon with getting to 88 points with not too much strife, and then my flow got messed up. From Splat Zones to Rainmaker at Museum d'Alfonsino and Flounder Heights. That's not so bad, I'm thinking. But then in my next match, we end up having a number of disconnects to the point where it became a 2v1. I thought I was about to get splatted with the Rainmaker, and then Kraken just... Pekaji, you poor, poor bastard. But hey, now I'm 1 win away from S rank. And 1 away was exactly the amount I lost by in the next match. This close. I was this close to S rank. But hey, I'm still at 84. I can just win the next 2 matches and hit S rank that way. Now, it's a problem. It's not like these are bad maps either. Actually, both of them are pretty cool for Rainmaker. Flounder Heights in general is nice because of its verticality, especially around the middle of the map, making for interesting and versatile gameplay opportunities, while Museum d'Alfonsino, which is, although pretty vertical throughout, gives you a lot of different ways of going about getting to the goal. These are my favorite kind of maps for Rainmaker, where at any point you can decide if you want to take a side path or not, use a potential shortcut that's on the riskier side, whatever works for you and your team, and whatever specials and weapons fit best. The lack of being forced to go through a single choke point like you would on Flounder Heights is not only relieving, but just straight up allows for more fun because of how flexible you can be, even when defending against the other team. It's a nice change of pace from the TF2 payload maps I like to play on for some reason. Man, I'm making a lot of TF2 comparisons. I wonder why. Unfortunately, because of how things went in this session, I didn't exactly view Museum d'Alfonsino in the more positive light that I do now. Probably because I didn't even see some of the different paths I could take at first, and those feelings also extended to Rainmaker as a whole. After all, I had yet to learn my ultimate technique for Rainmaker with my NZAP 89, so I didn't see the full potential the mode had for me. Which is made clear by the fact that after that last loss, I swapped to the NZAP 83. The Kraken strat I saw earlier on d'Alfonsino left an impression on me, and I wanted to try it out. Come the next match, and I don't use Kraken once. Half the time the person on the team grabbing the damn Rainmaker was me, and you can't use specials with it. Me having to focus the objective because no one else wants to. So much for being a change of pace from payload maps. At least we ended up winning, and I was playing well enough at least, and the point sensor ended up getting a lot of use as my sub, so I kept with it. The next match was pretty unremarkable, but hey, I finally got to use the Kraken. It wasn't very glamorous, to say the least. I tried to do it next match too, but then the guy with the Rainmaker died, and then I died, then I tried to clutch at the end by doing it, and the same fucking thing happened again. I fumbled this match hard, like both by doing that and just generally. One more loss after that, I finally stopped using that specific NZAP, only to use the NZAP 85 instead. Maybe I was impressed enough with the point sensor's usefulness that having the echolocator would be a big help, which it kind of does actually. It's pretty convenient to be able to pop it right before picking up the Rainmaker, both for me and my team, and splat bombs as a sub are always good to have. I mean, having more offense with my special would be preferred, but fuck it, if I'm the one stuck carrying the objective most of the time, I might as well work around that. Can't work around that though. Honestly, the 85 worked a lot better for me than the 83. Its entire kit was able to be used much more broadly and effectively. Still, knowing exactly where the enemy is and having the element of surprise doesn't stop me from running right into someone shooting at me. From here on, it was for real back and forth, but not like one right after the other. Near the end of the session, I got back to being 1 away from getting into S, but then in the deciding match, I somehow completely ignored a guy on the other team stealing the Rainmaker from right under my nose and solidifying their lead. Keep in mind, this is at around 4:30 in the morning, and I've been playing for 4 hours straight, so my brain is kind of fried by this point. I play a couple more matches to desperately try and get that rank up after such a long session, but eventually I realize it's just not happening. The final match here, you can definitely tell I'm tired. Like, I'm completely in a different world at some points and making decisions I really should not be. We get knocked out, and I'm out for the night. Or day at this point, I guess. I did make progress, but I didn't feel great about it. A rank went so smoothly that going through 4.5 hours of matches, after spending more time than any other rank up until this point and still not getting to S rank, really got to me. I was supposed to be setting a reign of destruction like the greatest in history hadn't been born yet. Not a reign in the air of tonight with me and depression, like you know the song by Phil Collins, In the Air of the Night, about that guy who could have saved that other guy from drowning but didn't. Then Phil saw it all at a show and he found him. Now, was this the longest session of this journey? By technicality, no. This session was the longest, being 10 minutes longer than the last. And I started at a later time, basically 1 in the morning, so I got done at like 6 a.m. Bro, this was a fucking Monday night. I had class the next day. What the fuck was I doing? Thankfully, I was thinking somewhat more clearly after the last session, and I was back to my good old NZAP 89 again. I came in with a strong determination to win this session. My shots were on point, and I had the confidence to back it up. Just not always the competence. It also helped that Splat zones were in rotation with Salt Spray and Dalfonsino again, so I didn't have to figure out maps at all. Generally, I'm playing good, and past a few hurdles like having a teammate disconnect or otherwise rough matchmaking, I get back to only needing 1 win to rank up pretty quick here. Then during the next match, we start off fine, get the point, get team wiped, and pretty much immediately lose via knockout. Which hurt, and the next match had me feeling some ways too with how close we were to losing, but then I somehow pulled a solo point capture out of my ass, also helped by someone on the other team DCing in the middle of me doing so, and with getting a knockout win right after, I was suddenly back to being 1 win away from S rank. The Wii U's internet giveth, the Wii U's internet taketh. Conversely, the next match started off pretty well, and we were able to get a strong lead in the first 2 minutes, but the moment I busted out the Ink Strike and the other team still took the point was when our team slowly started to unravel until we got team wiped and just totally dominated. No, just stick with the NZAP. I promise you'll be fine, Zeter. Look, I don't like to blame others, but more often than not in this session, I'm doing pretty well for myself, even when some of the things I do aren't necessarily smart. I see a guy using a bomb rush special, I go in to stop them while they're open and successfully do so, but we still lose the point and get a hard penalty, one of their bombs splats me, and that became a loss pretty quickly after that. It's like, yeah, I'm not perfect, but when one of my teammates has 0 splats and got splatted 5 times in the same match, I have to fucking wonder what the problem was. Look, we all have our bad days. I'm not saying they're shit. I'm just saying this shit was frustrating me, especially with how many times I've just barely missed out on getting to S rank by this point. With 4 separate occasions of this happening, it's hitting me just how much time I would have saved if any one of those matches had gone just a little more in my favor. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6, this could have gone so much faster. But no, I am simply denied. But hey, right after that, I had one of the closest matches I've ever played, complete with a constant back and forth of both teams taking the zone over and over again, and us barely losing overtime with 1 point to go. Yeah, it's a loss, but that's the kind of loss that doesn't even feel bad because of how intense and well-balanced the match felt. Let me tell you, that was some good shit. Ah, shit. Well, another map rotation it is, changing to Blackbelly Skate Park and Bluefin Depot with tower control. It's not messing up my flow this time, but... What are you doing, Zeter?
Come and listen to the idiot! Hey, everybody! The idiot's on!
I really don't know what was in my head when I swapped back to Aerospray here. Maybe because I did well at Skate Park with it before, and you know what? I actually get good results with it with a triple splat right off the bat, but that doesn't stop my team from eating dirt anyway and getting knocked out. Tell you what, it knocked some sense into me, and afterward I got right back into using the NZAP. Probably because I'm being a dumbass and blaming the weapon, I don't know. Anyhow, with the tower control maps, Skate Park I was familiar enough with after playing on it last time, but Bluefin in this scenario is an interesting beast. Because you're always fighting an uphill battle from mid, it makes getting past 50 distance and onward on this map very tricky. It's an interesting parallel to the Splatzone's version of the map, where most of the action happens around the zone in the middle, compared to tower control, where even though the tower does start in the middle, activity is usually split between the middle and the areas above and around it. So you have to look at what's happening on the map more broadly, especially since it's usually those further back areas where more concentrated efforts have to happen. You also have to still be conscious of all of the areas where you can fall off, especially since the tower starts right on top of one of those gaps. No reason in particular I bring that up. There's this one area in the path of the tower that's especially annoying because there's just enough of a gap that you can jump over it, but if you lack the momentum or hesitate at all, you just won't make it. And yes, it's still like that in Splatoon 3. Oh no. Okay, we're still doing that. Now, there's something specific to tower control I need to bring up, especially with this session, because here is where I really take advantage of this aspect of the game mode. With tower control maps, often the first half of the distance is easy to manage and go back and forth with, but it's the second half, once you start getting into the other team's base, where a decent lead is especially important, more so than Rainmaker since the tower generally moves slower. Especially with the fact that, when super jumping to an ally, if they're on the tower when you select them, even if they move off or get splatted after, you'll still jump to where they were on the tower, even if it's moving. This makes it very easy to keep chaining super jumps to try and keep your team's momentum going, even if it's kind of desperate. Pair this tactic with stealth jump, and you have an oddly viable strat that I try to get away with a lot.
No! No, not the TikToker!
Let me tell you, there is nothing more beautiful than your whole team, with no voice communication, being on the same page and just constantly chaining super jumps to keep pushing that tower further, even so far as a knockout. Oh, you thought you cleared the tower and could relax? You thought this fight was done?
I didn't hear no bell. Oh, I'm sorry! I was in America, I'm sorry! Burn it down! Burn it down!
Of course, this strategy goes both ways, so it's always good to be conscious of a potential stealth jumper after stopping the tower and fucking up your team like a bomb rock falling from the sky in Pikmin 2. It's the same kind of trauma. But more often than not, I was the one screwing up the other team with stealth jump, and it always felt good, if a little cheeky. After a knockout using the method I just talked about, and a win after that, I was once again just a single win away from getting S rank and oh god, you know where this is going. This is where a specific kind of hate starts to brew in me. A hate long dormant that I had in me back in the day, and was now starting to rear its ugly shape back into my mind. If there is one weapon type that frustrates me more than any other in Splatoon 1, it's blasters. You see, blasters are a special kind of weapon in the game. The way they work is by shooting balls of death that explode at a set range or by hitting a target. This explosion will not only ink turf, but also do a fair amount of damage, even if you're not directly hit by it. In fact, most blasters can just straight up one-shot you with a direct hit. Of course, to compensate for this kind of power, either their range will be noticeably short or their fire rate will be pretty slow. You could just stay out of their range or get close enough that they have a hard time landing a direct hit, but the problem is more when the squid with the blaster has the element of surprise. In a lot of cases, if someone with a blaster gets you within range and catches you off guard, even if they only shoot near you and don't hit you directly, there's a good chance you're already fucked. Even if you get hit indirectly, all it takes is 2 shots from the explosion or 3 from getting grazed by them, so good luck trying to react properly. Even worse, it doesn't matter if you're hiding behind cover or a wall, because if they're able to shoot past what you're hiding behind and still hit you indirectly with the explosion, by the time you realize that you aren't safe, it's usually too late. Same goes for if you're the one on offense, because they can hide behind a corner and keep shooting, and while they can hit you, you can't hit them. This isn't to say blasters don't have shortcomings. No. They don't ink turf particularly well, walls especially, since hitting a wall doesn't cause an explosion like hitting a target does, so spacing your shots can get tricky for efficient ink coverage. On top of that, due to their fixed range, you have to be very conscious of your positioning to be sure you're working around your most effective distance. Hitting someone shooting at you from point blank isn't as easy of a shot as you'd think, even if you can just one-shot them. Believe me, I've had my fair share of blaster experience, albeit in Splatoon 3. It's easy to get clumsy with them. Straight lines are not my forte. Ultimately, the usefulness of blasters is more situational than general. A lot of my hate from blasters back in the day probably came from trying to fight them head-on during Splatfests and not knowing how to better get around them when I was 15. It was turf war. I could have just not been so aggressive, waited for an opportunity, charged my special, that kind of stuff. Now that said, we're not exactly playing a game mode here that covers a map more broadly, and literally, like turf war. This is ranked, which focuses on a specific objective point. Using a blaster, it's very easy to find yourself in a scenario where you can stay around a specific spot in the area of objectives like Rainmaker and Tower Control, and just kind of shoot in their general distance and get solid results. Not that I would know what that's like. Hey, wait a minute. When your weapon's shortcomings are inking turf and having a set range and fire rate, that doesn't really matter when inking turf isn't the objective and the actual objective can just come to you. And even then, they can still take the offensive plenty well regardless of the objective. You still have to work around a blaster's particular effectiveness, like the Luna Blaster having a faster fire rate but shorter range that forces you into more vulnerable situations as a consequence. But in some cases, you can just bypass the shortcomings because of how Splatoon 1 works. Take the Rapid Blaster and Rapid Blaster Pro, for example. Decent range and fire rate, but it can't one-shot with a direct hit or two-shot with the explosion damage. But if you equip gear with enough strength-up ability slots, you can still just one-shot and two-shot anyway. Fuck you. I guarantee that if you die to a blaster user in ranked tier, you will almost always see an excess of strength up in their ability slots to ensure that you coming within their range is like falling in a fucking Sarlacc pit. And sure, making a weapon more effective with abilities is true for pretty much every weapon in the game. In fact, most players used and/or stacked strength up because it's just kind of that good of an ability to have, myself included. And it's not like blasters are the only weapon they can one-shot, or even the weapons that require the least amount of thought to be good with. I just find blasters to be especially annoying because the negatives of its trade-offs hardly seem like an issue compared to its positives, particularly in the case of ranked game modes. I'm not saying they don't take skill. I mean, I'm sticking with the N-Zap and not switching to a blaster for reasons more than just stubbornness and pride. I'm just saying I don't feel bad for them.
Again, I'm no expert on Splatoon's meta or whatever. I don't know exactly what's most competitively viable or what weapons are more broken than others because of their synergy with the special and sub they have, yada yada. I'm just speaking from personal experience. And in my experience, I fucking hate these things with a passion. In Splatoon 1, they're pretty chill in Splatoon 3. Maybe that's because I haven't touched strength in 3 yet. I don't know.
I make this rant here because this is where my struggles with blaster users really starts to pick up. Of course, I'm going to start noticing stuff like this after losing yet another match that could have gotten me into S rank. I'm getting pissed off at this point, evidenced by me mashing the home button after falling off the map right at the start of the next match because why is there a fucking pit there? And then, a connection issue happens right after, and I'm down to 70 points suddenly, even though I was so damn close to ranking up.
Stop! Stop pregnancy!
Oh, wrong clip. I'd say more about the session past this point, but honestly, for the next 3 or so hours, it's business as usual. Blasters are pissing me off, I'm generally playing well, there's some tight matches here and there, all that. It's not that there weren't interesting matches, but I've pretty much told you the broad strokes of what I went through. Though I will say, with the circumstances that I'm playing the game under and how late I'm staying up playing, Part of what kept me mildly sane during this was finding it routinely funny to be in a lobby with everyone having Japanese names, and then there's just Pelipper OU. There's a reason you can only change your name every 30 days in Splatoon 3, and it's because they knew this power was too strong for people like me.
You guys want to look in my eyes? You guys want to do something? I'm about to...
Stupid players get stupid results, and 4.5 hours into the session, I'm yet again 1 win away from S rank. We start strong, as I'm able to get quite a lot of splats while my team starts moving the point. But my ink strike doesn't do much, and I get splatted by, guess what? But my team holds on, and this leads us to doing a super jump chain with enough persistence to get us all the way to 13 distance. With as long as I was playing at this point, like it was around 5:30 a.m. here, as this chain was happening, I was popping off like I was getting away with turning in a 12-page essay late with no penalty. I'm not saying that based off anything. What are you talking about? I wanted a knockout to make sure I didn't get fucked over again somehow, but I was at least confident in such a strong advantage. Yeah, there were 3 minutes left, but getting that far on Bluefin Depot is tough. All we had to do was defend. Sure enough, we locked it down and came out on top. Finally, I had achieved S rank. Though, as relieved as I was, the feeling was bittersweet. Yes, I was able to climb out of A+, but with the amount of times I was right at the point of doing so before being denied, more often than not, just barely missing the mark, I couldn't help but think that had things gone ever so slightly different, I could have saved myself hours of trouble and that most of my time in A+ was avoidable. But hey, I got past it. It's done, and now there's only 1 rank left. Besides, even though S rank would take some time to get through due to gaining and losing less points for a match, I was more optimistic than anything. It was in my head that A+ probably only took so long because of some unfortunate cases of bad luck. S rank was gonna be tough, no doubt, but with about 2 weeks before the server shut down and only 1 step to go before S+, the end of my journey felt within reach.
Pass out.
Frank.
Wake up.
Frank.
Fade it.
Frank.
Fade it.
Frank.
Now I think, now that we only have 1 more rank to go, we're near the end of this. Surely, I mean, we're at S rank now. We passed the halfway point a while ago, right? Oh, we're a long way from done, lightweight. We're not even in the second half of my time in ranked. We're not even at the halfway mark. All the footage up to this point for ranked comes out to roughly 20 hours and 256 gigabytes. I already wasn't happy about how much of that was in A+. The combined length I have for all the footage I have from my time in S rank is 34 hours. 500 gigabytes of footage. Yeah, the time I spent in S rank alone ended up being significantly more than the time I spent in every other rank combined. And remember, by this point, I've got barely 2 weeks left until the servers go down, and I mostly have to play at night because that's when people are most active. If you do the math, you realize just how fucked things are about to get from me here. You're looking great today, by the way. I'm glad you're here.
At this point, I'm sure you'll understand why I'm just going to talk about my time in S rank more broadly, rather than going through each session specifically. This isn't just because of how much happened in S rank, but also because of how a lot of nothing happened. The amount of time I spent in S rank where it felt like all of my efforts led to me being stuck in the same place no matter what I did was mind-numbing. And that's not even an exaggeration about how I felt doing this at times. Let me put it this way. Starting off, I was at S30, just like every other rank. By the end of the first session, after 2 hours, I was at S34, which equals out to about 1 win worth of progress, because remember, S rank gives half the amount of points for wins and losses, so already things are going to take twice as long, good or bad. I did get my rank a decent bit higher earlier on, but all it takes is a couple losses to strip you of your progress. Already, especially with the prior experience of struggling through A+, I was frustrated. This had the potential to be so much worse, and I was really afraid of not being able to do this in time. The idea of potentially being stuck going back and forth through the rank left me feeling unsure about a lot. So, I went back to questioning my approach and debating on switching my equipment. Ultimately, I assured myself that I should stick with the NZAP-89 because it was my most reliable option at this point, but gear-wise is where I decided to shake things up. You see, I thought about the abilities I was using, and I realized that because of my stealth jump strat, I did tend to die a lot. And only because of that, I mean. But I like using stealth jump, and it works for me more than it doesn't, so I wanted to keep taking advantage of it. I look into other abilities that could further help me out, and as it turns out, there's a primary ability called Comeback, which gives boosted stats for 20 seconds after respawning from getting splatted. A lot of boosts, including Ink Saver Sub and Main, Ink Recovery Up, Run Speed Up, Swim Speed Up, and Special Charge Up, all to the equivalent of 12 AP, slightly more than having them as a main ability slot. As you can imagine, as someone who tends to get splatted a lot because of the specific playstyle I use, this is really fucking good, and I kind of kick myself for not having realized this sooner. It's even better since, because I can just jump into battle without the enemy team knowing until I'm there thanks to stealth jump, these buffs from Comeback end up making for an even nastier surprise attack. Sure, I lose some time for stealth jump's slower speed, but that more than makes up for the ground I'd have to tread otherwise. Comeback itself is only available on headgear, but I thankfully already had the tennis headband with the ability as its primary. So as much as it hurt to let my hair clip go, the ability combo was just too good not to use. Besides, even though I lose swim speed up from this, Comeback basically gives me that and more. Sure, I'll have to get splatted a lot to take full advantage of it, but it's probably worth it in the long run. I'll just take some ibuprofen to help with the pain. Maybe some Fent, I don't know. Cocaine, I'll take cocaine.
Because I'm partial to cocaine.
Alcohol is too expensive, I can't afford it. Don't drink and take ibuprofen at the same time. It messes up your stomach lining. Don't be like my brother. We're gamers. We don't die, we respawn. But if you die in the game, you die in real life. But if you die, you respawn and you come back with boosted stats because of Comeback.
With a brand new fit, I was reinvigorated with potential. Potential to do better. Potential to be better. And that potential led to me having the same exact results as the previous session, only making 1 win worth of progress by the end with S39. I even still went through the process of being higher earlier on in the session and dropping it from a few losses. I wasn't exactly happy about it, especially in regards to time, but at the very least, I was making progress. It wasn't being done in a straight line and it was slow going, but it was progress. If anything, I at least felt like the gear change I made was good and was worth sticking with. As for my weapon, I was actually more than glad I kept using the NZAP-89, because I ended up discovering something this session that really helped me out. In this session, Rainmaker was in rotation, and you might recall that the Rainmaker's shield damages you if you touch it. Or you might not recall that fact and let it get too close to you and... Point is, the shield hurts. But what I realized is that the shield damages squids, but not things. If you were to place, I don't know, a sprinkler down by the Rainmaker's shield, and the shield continues to grow around it, the sprinkler won't be destroyed. it'll keep shooting out ink, which when close to or engulfed by the shield, ends up hitting said shield a lot. Throw one of those things by the Rainmaker at the start of a match or when it's regenerating after being dropped, and you have an insanely easy and convenient way to get that Rainmaker for your team. Although this particular strat didn't stick in my head as much as I wanted it to throughout this session, this was where I learned and started to take advantage of it, and it just gave me another good reason to stick with the 89, even over other NZAPs. Though, I still wasn't as fond of Rainmaker on the whole here as much as I eventually became, probably because I ultimately didn't make much progress despite the Sprinkler strat. It didn't help that the strat didn't stick in my head as immediately as it could've because it was a little hard to get immediate use from it at the start of a match somewhere like Walleye Warehouse, where the Rainmaker is between these boxes and I can't exactly place a sprinkler right next to it. I mean, I can place one around it and shoot the shield to get it within the sprinkler's range, and the sprinkler is still covering turf around the area, but it's not quite as effective as it could be is what I'm saying. Still good throughout the rest of the match though, and Walleye Warehouse has a lot of good sprinkler spots regardless. Speaking of, ooh, finally I got to play on Walleye Warehouse again. One of the 2 original maps in Splatoon 1 and still a classic. A lot of it is basically a big hallway, but there's a good amount of cover and side paths to keep things from feeling boring or too unfair. Since you can't climb over the walls through the main area of the map, instead being forced to walk up ramps or take narrow side paths, you really have to work in order to get close to enemy spawn. If your team is stuck at spawn getting camped here, it's not a good look.
Wow, you are just pushing them back in.
I'm aggressive in my splatting, I really am.
Don't forget though that they might be spreading in behind you.
That's true.
As fun as it is to prevent someone from joining back in the match.
I'm a terrible
Ethan, since you're...
I always keep an eye out for the enemy team's side path on my right, because if they ignore it enough, I know I have a good opportunity for flanking. You can do it on the other side too, but this side is less claustrophobic and is easier to hold down or retreat from. The midpoint is nice and open too, so there's a good amount of wiggle room for fights. There isn't much in regards to stage gimmicks or big defining features, it's just a well-designed map I really dig. Rainmaker does a really good job of showing this off. Going down the middle of the main area is the easiest way forward, but having the side paths open as potential options keeps both teams on their toes. If anything, the side paths are mainly for teammates trying to catch the other team off guard so that the squid carrying the Rainmaker can keep going up the ramps. Yeah, always like this one.
What's up? Can a low come up in your crib? Man, fuck you. I'll see you at work.
Yes!
Another map I've also always liked was the other one in rotation for this session, Moray Towers.
Welcome to the Towers, where our motto is...
The squid on the tower must be punished for his actions.
Oh, that's great.
I think there's a lot of people who don't like this map, or at least didn't like it back in the day from what I've heard, but I've always had fun on it. It's easily the most vertical map in the game, being like 4 stories tall with in-between stories each. There's really no reason to get spawn camped here. Like, if it happens to your team and you pull the plug on the Wii U like Nintendo did, I won't even blame you.
Peter, it was a very difficult decision.
How could you do that? I'm alive!
Besides the first level by spawn, there's ramps and a few side paths you can use as a shortcut, some being riskier than others, but yielding better results when pushing a Rainmaker forward. Of course, with the middle of the map being its lowest point, you always have to fight an uphill battle to get ahead, either by totally overwhelming the other team or by outmaneuvering them. On the flip side, defending gives you the upper hand by always having the high ground, at least unless you decide to meet the other team head on and push forward. Because of the size of the map, leaving spawn can take some time, but since you're usually falling for most of the travel time back to the objective, you can get a good idea of whether or not you want to go right in, hold a defense, build your special meter, anything like that. My only real complaint with Moray Towers is it can be a little too open. I mean, this is a really good map to have a charger on your team for. Sure, you have enough walls to swim up and around to avoid their sight lines and get closer to them. It's not impossible or anything, but that middle area can yield some real nasty work for a good charger player. It can get real rough down in that middle area. It's one of the few areas in this game I never feel safe in. Still, it's an interesting map all around, even with some of its rougher edges. Not sure it was the best pick for Smash, but dope as hell in Battlefield or Megaform, I'll give it that. Anyhow, maps I enjoy aside, The second session in S rank still didn't give me the amount of progress I would have liked, but it was progress nonetheless, and I at least enjoyed my time playing while cementing the quirks of my playstyle. Still, I pondered ways to further optimize said playstyle, and after I was done with ranked, I experimented in some casual turf war matches using gear I had with quick jump. It was nice to be able to circumvent the slower jump speed from stealth jump, but I only had it on headgear, and I didn't want to lose comeback, so it ended up just being a fun experiment that went nowhere. Also, at the end of the session, I got a friend request from this Japanese dude, and I ended up rejecting it, and I kind of regret it. Like, the Wii U servers had a week to live. Why the fuck didn't I just accept it for the coolness and the kindness of it? It would have been nice. I'm sad I pussied out.
I mean, I have a hard time going through the risk of making friends. I've been down that road too many times. You either all move on and become different people, or you fall out with the group because you're too slow to learn about things, and you start eating lunch by yourself because it's easier, or you stop talking to them because you don't want to be a bother, and you never hear from them again. At that point, shit's too awkward and probably more effort than it's worth just to not be lonely. Real life, online, they all just become a memory you don't want to go back to. But, like, it would have been a week, dude. You could have just accepted the request and humored the guy. I could have shared a moment in time.
The third session in S rank was interesting, because I only ended up playing 4 matches, but this was for good reason. Kelp Dome was in rotation. I didn't check the maps beforehand, and I was set to play some ranked that night, so I wasn't exactly happy seeing my environmental nemesis on the board.
Salutations, my children.
However, in the 4 matches I played, I only got put in Urchin Underpass. The first match was a loss, but it had a DC, so I only lost 1 point. And then I won the next 3 matches, and decided I was good for the night, so I didn't end up going to Kelp Dome and losing the progress I made. Instead, I chilled with my Wii U and did a quick 20-minute playthrough of Super Mario World because I was in the mood. It was a good night. I like when number goes up. Speaking of numbers, 4/1/2024. April Fool's, bitch. It's a new day and some more ranked Splatoon. You could already tell that this was gonna be a scuffed session right from the first match, because...
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
Look, I saw Camp Triggerfish was in rotation, and I thought it would work well for me. Seeker Strat and all that. What I forgot was that Bluefin Depot was also in rotation. I do not do well there with Aerospray, and oh, look what happened in the first match. Just like that, I'm back to using the NZAP, is what I would say. Except I don't do well in the next few matches as well. And with me getting desperate about losing my progress from the previous session, I decided to practice with some alternate playstyles again. No, I'm a man of commitment. I'm sticking with you for real this time, I promise!
I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
I'm talking I tried real different stuff. The Grim Range Blaster and the E-Leader. I think my thought process was that I was tired of being seemingly screwed by matchmaking, causing the other team to have one of these weapon types, and my team not having any, that I'd save myself a lot of trouble by just using them myself. Ultimately, this was copium talking, but I was on my own pack enough that after practicing in Turf War enough with it, I actually tried to use the Grim Range Blaster in Ranked, complete with a different gear set and abilities, since it wasn't quite as good for stealth jump strat. This led to 2 losses, and like bad losses, and a DC that also would have been a loss anyway. So at least it saved me some time and embarrassment. I once again relearned that I should just stick to what I'm used to and what I know I'm capable with, and go back to the NZAP 89 and my usual gear set. The damage was already done, however, and although I started in a good spot this session, after those losses at the start, I ended up struggling in the area between S30 to S0. Even a map rotation halfway through didn't help my case. Straight up, I was 1 loss away from dropping down to A+ at a point, and with as slow as moving through S rank is, it was like I was trying to run out of a quicksand pit or something. Despite my best efforts, I was about 8 losses down from where I started.
It's like, I keep getting into these funks where I get really into my head and down to myself because it feels like nothing I'm doing is doing anything. Even when I put the time in to do what I want, it just doesn't feel like I'm doing enough. Is it them, or is it me? Do I have to change something about my approach, or do I just need to keep going and trust that what I'm doing is gonna work out and everything will be alright in the end. Or do I just give up? Fuck it. I've still got time. I may as well use it.
How far does my desperation go, you may ask? Well, with a week left now, and being so far down in S rank, I'm now starting to play in the middle of the day. On the bright side, with the shutdown of Splatoon 1 servers being so close and more in people's heads, more people were going back and playing the game, so my wait time for matches was pretty much the same at any time of the day. Maybe because of that, however, I somehow got this error code in the middle of a match, which caused me to disconnect and lose rank points. If it was while I was queuing up for a match and I couldn't connect to someone's Wii U for whatever reason, I would understand. Cause sometimes my Wii U didn't like to connect to other specific Wii U's. Like, it happened when I tried to play Smash 4 online back in the day with some band friends in high school. But why in the middle of the match? It never happened before or after, and it just served to set me back and piss me off. Whatever. I restarted my console to be safe after looking it up, and from there, my luck didn't exactly pick up. I remained stuck at the bottom of S rank. And, oh yeah, remember a minute ago when I said I relearned my lesson about sticking with the end zap?
So that was a fucking lie.
Yep, I decided to use the range blaster in ranked because I have lost control of my life. Was there reasoning behind this? Yes, Port Mackerel was in rotation, and I thought the narrow, corridor-like nature of the map would work really well with the range blaster. Did it work out for me? No! It never does, and I'm sure I was in a state of distress during all of this that clouded my judgment. I empathize with my past self, but I also look at myself here and think, man, I was being stupid. I at least had the sense to only do that for one match before going back to my NZAP. Though that doesn't change that I was now at S0, the absolute lowest I could be at in S rank. I'm freaking out and dreading losing another match, but I have to keep playing in order to win, so on the show goes, or however it goes. For what it's worth, I'm able to put up enough of a fight and or get lucky enough to stay in S rank until a map rotation happens, where we get... God damn it.
Well, this is the end.
Okay, fine, let's talk about it now. Why don't I like Kelp Dome? Its name sounds like it would be a sports arena in SpongeBob, and there's plants everywhere. What's not to like? The map is shaped kind of like a 3x3 grid, with the middle and spawn areas being bigger than the others. There's either narrow entryways or ramps to each area, and a great pathway that runs across the middle of the map to add a second layer to the battlefield. That pathway is a good place for long-range weapons like chargers to take a foothold, but not overly strong since you can't swim anywhere up there. Since the walls aren't too big, you can also shoot ink or throw subs over them to try and help or build your special meter. There's a fair amount of pathways, fair amount of cover, it's a solid all-around map. So what do I not like about it? Honestly, I just don't. I've tried to play on it multiple times back in the day, and it never really clicked. I've always been lukewarm to it, at best. I guess I would say it feels too chokeholdy. There are too many spots on this map where I almost feel helpless to make it advance, more than almost any other map. I think the lack of walls I can swim up and over makes it worse too. Like, even though I have multiple paths, I have less options movement-wise. And you know what? Something about these walls also makes me uncomfortable. They're like plastic-covered furniture at a really old relative's house that you can never get comfortable in. I'm never comfortable in this map, except maybe when I'm staying around the middle platform, probably because I can actually swim up it and move around like that. Also, and this is kind of nitpicky, but the poles that the great platforms are held up by are annoying to have to move around. I've been splatted a couple times due to getting snagged by the damn poles, and it is never a fun feeling. I just don't really like Kelp Dome. I have similar feelings to a map like Badwater in TF2. Everyone seems to love it, I understand why it has its fans, but most of the time when I go there, I have a less than stellar experience that turns me off from wanting to go there. That's just how it goes though, right? As much as I'd like to continue avoiding Kelp Dome, my deadline goads me into making the most of my time, and I keep playing. I need to get my rank up before I can't anymore, and I don't really have a choice. Unfortunately, the next few matches don't go the way I want them to, and although I get a win at first, 2 losses after that brings my rank down far enough that I'm out of S rank. I actually ranked down, and I'm back at A+ at 70 points. All that effort, all those hours of gameplay, all of that struggling to get out of A+ in the first place and later to try so hard to get out of the bottom of S rank, all reduced to nothing. Fucking god damn it. I can't tell you how destroyed I felt. This was the harshest setback I encountered, and it wasn't even necessarily that I dropped a rank that upset me, but the idea of how much longer this could go on for. Getting out of A+ the first time was such a pain with how many times I just barely didn't rank up right at the top. Again, it took me around 9 hours total to do so, and with all that time I spent up in S rank only to drop back down and have to get past that hurdle all over again just to get back to where I was like this was a Faudian game or something. My mind was swimming, dude. I needed to get out of the lazy river and onto solid ground so I could take on the wave pool again. There was a narrow path forward, I just had to go through it. I couldn't get knocked out now. I had to hand out the knockout myself. I don't know, man. That's just how it goes when the Groose is loose. They left him out of Hyrule Warriors for fear that that energy he'd bring would be too strong. By sheer willpower, I'm able to win 4 matches in a row and immediately get back into S rank, which allows me to end that session at S30. Which is weird, because had I won the match before that 4-win streak to prevent me from ranking down, and I were to somehow get a 5-win streak instead, I think I'd actually be lower than this. It turned out that dropping rank actually benefited me in the long run, because I pulled an emergency win streak out of my ass afterward. I can't make this shit up. I guess comeback works better than I thought. This session was a wild ride, and time constraints or not, I needed a good 24 hours or so as a break to make sure I was emotionally stable enough to move on. I had a fresh start in S rank, a second chance. I didn't want to waste it. Actually, about the 4-win streak I ended that session on, that technically wasn't true. I stopped at 4 wins then, but continuing on to the next session, the win streak got even bigger. It wasn't a 4-win streak, it was a 12-win streak. I don't know what god I appeased in order for me to get these results, probably GodGamer69 over here, probably a safe bet, but the first 8 matches here were all wins. Even when I eventually lost, it was down to the wire and a good match on top of that. I was just on it. I constantly had a good team, I was holding my own plenty well, things went right for me. I mean, the 10th match got a connection issue because someone rage quit, but we had lost anyway, so no harm, no foul, I guess. I remember the last match I did here at Anchovy Games too, because it was one of the most clutch endings to a match I ever pulled off. Slipping through their whole team in order to block the tower just in time for them not to beat us, after just barely taking the lead right before it. In only an hour, I had made monumental progress, and even with a couple losses, ending past the second half of the rank at S58 gave me one of the biggest waves of relief ever. Still a ways to go, but having things go so well for me here gave me enough hope that S+ was still possible, and that I was finally out of the proverbial mud.
4 hours of gameplay later!
Okay, well, so much for the positivity. 1 full map rotation, and I'm back to the start of S rank again. It wasn't even that I did bad the whole time. What happened was that I lost a few matches at the start, and I ended up trapped in the 30 to 50 range.
For the love of God, you people are in S rank. Play the object. If you are not on the point, when the timer hits 0, we will not go into overtime and we will not be able to go. It doesn't matter if we get the people or not. If we're not on the point, we lose anyway. Get on the. This is TF2 pubs. I may as well be in pubs. What are we doing?
Still, it's yet another setback. I think after my huge win streak from before, all of which was done while playing tower control, I got a positively skewed view of the game mode, and it made me want to play more of it to get better results, which also carries over into the next session. However, tower control being easier, or whatever, wasn't really the case. Still, good luck telling me that back when I was recording all of this, because come next session, which was another 4 hours of tower control, I'm sitting up at S66, the highest I'd ever been. This was like a mirror of what happened before, because while most of my time was still spent in a 30 to 50 range, around the end is when I get a pretty solid win streak. Am I actually back this time? Are we doing this for real? Did Supreme Overlord finally kick in? It fucking better have! There's less than 4 days left. We're close enough to the deadline that by this point, I'm using as much time as I have to play Splatoon out of fear that luck won't be on my side.
This is gonna be one of the hardest grinds of my life. And I just want to promise, right at the start of this, that I will not rage. I will not be consumed in anger. I will keep a level head, I will play to the best of my abilities, and I will do my best to try and get S+. But also first I need to take a shit because that coffee went through me immediately.
Things are going well, but I know how easy it is to get screwed over and kicked back down, so I take a break to relax for a bit, eat dinner, and then it's right back to the grind, this time with Splat Zones. This is where I crash out a little, all thanks to a little map known as Museum d'Alfonsino. The last time I played on it was also with Splat Zones during the session where I dropped back to A+. Although it was in the map rotation prior to that happening, the matches I had then directly contributed to my previous downfall. That wasn't so much the case this time, as I ended up only 2 points lower at S64, but that's also probably due to me cutting the session short after losing too many times and feeling like the damn map was cursed.
Like, I can't win, I'm telling you, I can't fucking win on this map, dude. You are seeing the footage. The evidence is there. And, again, I'm not heated, maybe a bit, but not like, I know not to let it get to me. So, you know what? I got a half hour till the maps rotate. I'm gonna stop playing, because fuck that. The other map's great. This one fucking blow. I'm so sick of this map with Splatoon 1. My A+, getting through that. I already had to duel this map enough. I'm not doing even a half hour more of it. Potentially. Sick of it.
You know, the grind is one thing. It's a ranked game mode and to be expected, especially with bad luck, whether that be from matchmaking or how well I end up doing in certain maps and certain game modes. But having to do said grind within a short time limit where victory is not guaranteed at all is another. The stress builds and weighs down on you over time, and feelings of exhaustion like to cloud around your mind and body. Also contributing to this exhaustion is having to listen to the same 9 songs over and over again.
What's wrong with you?
I don't. No, I can't control it.
I haven't talked about it too much, but Splatoon has a really great and distinctive soundtrack. Really, it does. The rocking guitars, the distorted vocals, having made up in-universe bands be responsible for them that bring their own unique sound to the songs attributed to them, it's all super cool, and even if I prefer the later games as soundtracks, I still have a lot of fondness for Splatoon 1's music. But when you consider how much I'm playing ranked in such a short amount of time, and how I have to make sure to listen to what's happening in the game so that I can be acutely aware of what's going on around me, having a relatively small selection of music that plays no matter what starts to get really monotonous. You might think, why not just turn the music off? And that's a fair question, but no, there's absolutely zero audio options. No turning it off, no slightly adjusting it. Nintendo's too proud of what they've made, and they want to make sure you can't ignore it. Good audio. Good audio? Good audio. No options? Good audio. Bad design.
I'm talking about that's how you should like it. Good candy. Having it my way like Usher, dog.
Well, there's also the idea that the devs didn't want to make the game unfair by letting people turn off the music to hear their surroundings easier, which, like, I kind of get. But when you only make 9 damn songs that I have to hear for dozens of hours, even regardless of the fact that I did most of this within 2 weeks, yeah, I'd like to turn them off so I can still hear what's happening clearly while listening to YouTube videos, my own playlists with way too much Weezer in them, anything else, honestly, just to keep my brain from smoothing over. This is a problem with the sequels as well, and I don't like it there either, but at least they have wider song selections and, at least with Splatoon 3, more subtleties with the audio cues to give you information in the moment. From who and where? Splatoon 1 doesn't have that same level of depth, so not having the option to turn music down or off is that much more annoying, to the point where I eventually just listened to whatever I wanted to over the game anyway. I could still hear what was going on, music included unfortunately, it just wasn't as clearly audible.
After the set's conclusion, HBox sits with chat and an important post-tournament analysis. Let's see what he has to say about the win. Now, this makes a lot of sense, but Hungrybox is neglecting to include some very critical information.
Better than nothing, I suppose. As much as I want to wait for prime conditions to play the game and keep going on the same maps I'm familiar with, I don't exactly have that option due to procrastinating up until so close to the deadline. I was fed up enough with Delfonsino to stop for a bit, but I'm back 2 hours later for the next map rotation for Rainmaker, this time with Arowana Mall, and...
It's you! It's you!
Mahi Mahi Resort.
How could you, man?
Now let me tell you, as someone who's played a lot of Splatoon 3, I was initially terrified of playing on this map here after too many bad experiences in the sequel's later version of the map. Too much open space for chargers and splat links to dominate over, spawn camping happens way too easily, and it's generally too crowded until the water level goes down. They've changed that bitch twice, it's still not good. As I quickly found out, however, Mahi Mahi Resort used to be a way cooler map. I only experienced the Rainmaker variant of it, but, at least in the context of Rainmaker, this might be my favorite map in Splatoon 1. I'm not kidding. If you remember what I said about multiple paths with Museum Delfonsino on Rainmaker, Mahi Mahi is the same case, with multiple paths to take for getting to the goal. There's the safer but longer way down the enemy team's base, as well as the side path that's shorter but leaves you much more open and vulnerable. But once a team gets to 40 distance, which causes the water level to drop, there's also a ramp you can take right into the middle of the enemy team's base, which gives you less cover to work with, but can be a fast way to get a lead. On top of that, there's an obscure path with this grate after the water level drops that you can walk across to get you just a short walk away from the pedestal, if you're crafty enough. The water level dropping only after a team pushes far enough ahead makes it so that the early stages of a match can be fairly focused, while still being a pretty good map layout as is, but the later parts of a match, once things get too intense, creates more room for a potential comeback by opening up new avenues to take, though it can still be taken advantage of by the team in the lead. Still, it's the idea of maybe being able to go through these paths that adds more layers to how you approach carrying the Rainmaker and how you defend. A fair amount of cover also helps. Not too much to be annoying, but still enough to be decently reliable while preventing chargers from having total dominance, unlike some versions of this map. There's a lot of paths and open space, and as a result, Mahi Mahi feels like a very open map that only gets constrained when you want to commit and risk it. Otherwise, it always feels like you have options on where to go, attacking or defending. And I want to emphasize the attacking and defending part, because even though I generally do well on this map, I still enjoy it when on the losing side. I just have a lot of fun on it. At least for Rainmaker. I don't know about the other versions of the map. The atmosphere also helps, giving off vibes of staying at a hotel on summer break that has a really nice water park, where they have like pools with an obstacle course in it that's super slippery, and someone probably slips and breaks their nose while trying to do it, and you see them holding their nose walking down the hall when you're walking to go to the water park area, but you're like,
wouldn't let that shit happen to me though.
That didn't happen. I'm thinking of two memories of two different hotel experiences together. The girl with the broken nose was from this indoor water park at this hotel I was staying at, and the place I'm thinking of that's like Mahi Mahi Resort was this other hotel I was staying at that had an outdoor water park. They're close enough though, you feel me? Be careful around wet and slippery surfaces.
Especially in Splatoon 1. I mean, you won't get a broken nose, probably. But remember, Inklings falling in water equals death. Like actually, this is canonically them dying. They just respawn because they're gamers. They fall in water, they become part of the sea, it's forever in there, and then alright, back to it. It never ends. Just like trying to get S+. Please, I'm begging you here! Great maps aside, this was a long map rotation. And remember, this was after playing roughly 6 hours beforehand that day, on top of 4 hours the night before. Also consider the fact that this far into everything, with this session being my first time playing a Mahi Mahi Resort in Splatoon 1, I'm still learning shit as I go. Like, I didn't even realize I could shoot someone using Kraken to push them back until way later than I'd like to admit. Like, it was a decent bit into S rank until I realized that. To be fair, half the time someone uses Kraken against me, it's to hit an I win button in a 1v1, but still. I'm getting fucking exhausted, but I've been making good progress, and with only having a Majora's Mask amount of days left until the moon falls on the 3DS and Wii U's online infrastructure, I've still got the motivation to stay in the fray. With as much experience as I've accumulated, I ain't just a player, I'm a savage. Penis-sized average. But she says she still gotta have. The wins and losses keep coming, but I'm actually on the uptick and doing a good job getting wins, more so on Mahi Mahi than Arowana Mall. This is where I finally realized, hey, Rainmaker kinda rocks. The game mode just works well for me, especially with Sprinkler Strat and my tendency to go for bullshit because I know I can get rewarded for doing so with a distance lead. Slowly but surely, over the course of 2.5 hours, I keep climbing up the rank, kicking ass and taking names. Some interesting names this time around too, like this one dude named Arigato Wii U. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's sweet. I wasn't kidding when I said I was doing good. I actually made it to the point of being 1 win away from S+. Right there. I'm right there. I just have to bag this next match and I'm done. Please don't pull an A+ rank on me. I even get Mahi Mahi, with an E leader on my team. I've got my preferred conditions, I just need to win. The other team gets a pretty good lead early on, and we proceed to spend the rest of the match trying to overtake it. We're able to prevent them from pushing further, or even getting any sort of advance later on, but while we're on the offensive, we just keep struggling to go further than the main area. There's a moment where 2 teammates are trying to push in 2 different paths for me to move in with the Rainmaker, and neither work out. We keep struggling, even get team wiped at a point, but eventually, while it looks like we have an opportunity and I have the Rainmaker, a teammate starts to clear a way to the side path, until we get blindsided and I get splatted. My team is able to fight them off without me, and they pick up the Rainmaker. They keep going, getting closer and closer to taking the lead, and while I super jump over them to get back in the fight, they drop it, only 2 distance away from the other team's lead. We get team wiped with 20 seconds to go, and it's a loss.
Fucking get so close. Get so much hope and excitement, and then gone.
This is to say, I don't really get close and have this happen to me again like with A+. I almost do later in the session, considering I'm still high up after that loss, but before that I lose again right after the previous match, but it's a DC loss so I only drop by 1 point, but it's enough that I now have to win 3 matches to rank up because wins up this high only net you 4 points. That's cool. Oh, that's cool too. Somehow, someway, after all that, I end up on the same team as a squid who's just straight up cheating, aptly named Evil Squid. Not quite as strong as the Evil Blunt, but effective nonetheless. It's not really a match, more everyone fucking around because the other team knows they lose here. And in an instant, the entire map became covered in blood blue ink. This was not normal. I couldn't believe what was happening, but I had to keep playing, or I would be haunted by my cursed Splatoon copy forever. Also, I guess now's a better time than any to bring up that the game does have slowdown when there's enough action happening. Usually only when there's too many specials going off. Really doesn't happen that much though. Internet issues aside, Splatoon runs really well. But yeah, ran into a cheater and it got me a win? I'll take it? That's not even the highest splat amount I've seen. Get good, man.
You know, I gotta say, I heard a lot about, like, cheaters in this game or whatever. Like, I remember seeing, like, a decent amount of posts in it. In, like, the 50 hours, probably not 50 hours, but, like, in the extended amount of time I've played ranked on this, this is the first one. This is the only thing I've seen. Like, I've seen connection issues and stuff, but this is, like, the first, like, actual, like, person using cheats. And considering what I heard before, I'm kind of surprised. Not bad. And, you know, at least they were on my team, so I didn't get point deductions, but, like, still, that sucks, man.
I remember seeing a fair amount of complaints about people using cheats in Splatoon 1 before all of this, but I'm happy to say that this is the only person I ran into ranked who actually did this. Okay, well, after looking through the 50+ hours of footage I have multiple times for this fucking project, turns out I was wrong, because apparently during another match in S rank, I played against a guy named Nogami Hisashi. I don't know what the symbols mean, but, you know, we have the name. And, oh geez, I wonder if it was the real guy. Look at the way he's playing. Oh, he's so good. He must be a developer. Oh, I bet he's got a great gamer chair, too. Yeah, that's what they all say. But yeah, other than them and Evil Squid, I'm pretty sure those are the only cheaters. So, you know, 2 and 50+ hours, it's not bad, all things considered. Honestly, the low amount was pretty refreshing to see, considering this was on the tail end of the TF2 bot crisis.
Now that's a reason to drink.
Now after-
who am I kidding? Who needs a reason to drink?
After all of that nonsense, things go a bit south. Not that kind of south. I desperately try to get back to being 1 win away and breaking the barrier, but it's not happening. Thankfully, I only dropped back down into the 70s, ending the session at S77, which is still good progress overall, but, like, I was right there. Just like A+. That happened to me 6 times in A+, and things take even longer in S. Thinking about that only filled me with dread, that not only was I gonna be putting so many hours on top of all that I've already done, but that it still just wasn't gonna be enough with the time I had left. The binge was gonna be long regardless. And already having played for the majority of the past 24 hours, only stopping to eat, sleep, and avoid Museum d'Alfonsino during splat zones, I just kinda had to sit in the reality of things and hope I could actually get through this. I started waiting a little bit before I re-queued into a match, partly to relax, refresh myself, calm my nerves, and partly because I was scared of dropping my rank further from losing and falling even further down S, maybe even going back to A+ again. My nervousness shows during matches too. I start spamming Booyah and Come On a lot more. Booyah especially, since that's the only one you can use when you get splatted and is your best option to alert your team. It makes me glad they let you say ouch in Splatoon 3 when this happens, because as much as I want to warn my team, a desperate Booyah only gives out mixed signals, especially when I'm trying to boost said signal by button mashing like I'm using a summon in Final Fantasy VIII. If you know, you know. And like, there are just some parts with looking back at the footage that, because I wasn't able to record both my monitor and the gamepad, thanks Wii U, I'm not sure if I'm making decisions based on what I'm seeing on the gamepad's map, or if I'm just being fucking stupid.
Hey, what do you think the S in S rank stands for? It stands for, what are you, fucking stupid?
Clearly that's what it means, because I still go on to play for one more session that day despite it being 2 in the morning and having to go to work the next evening.
Don't
Don't worry, Squidward. Mr. Squarepants can come in your bottom. Congratulations.
No, it's tower control with Blackbelly Skate Park and Bluefin Depot. I'm gonna do really well. I know I am. 3 hours later, at 5 in the morning,
I think Cheddar's looking a little tired, don't you?
I end up at S75, 2 points lower than I started. The whole time I moved around the 65 to 85 range, so it was essentially 3 hours of absolutely nothing. Better than being down a bunch, sure, but also I could have just gotten sleep, man.
Stu, what are you doing?
Making.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making?
Because I've lost control of my life.
I could have rested and not further fucked up my sleep schedule. Maybe studied or worked on school projects I had, since finals for my college semester were like 3 weeks away. The weight of procrastination is a heavy load, and I am a fucking moron. At least I had the sense to finally stop and go to bed once 5 a.m. rolled around, after an entire day's worth of playing Splatoon 1 ranked. And also to stop trying to make King Gambit work. They're too gimmicky and simple anyway. If we want to win this, we gotta get philosophical.
Please repeat after me. There's only one rule. I will not lose.
It's a new day, and with a reasonable amount of rest and my newfound appreciation for Rainmaker, I get an hour-and-a-half session in before work so I can try to get what I can out of it. Though, this only ends up being 50 minutes of Rainmaker, because this is what I get for desperately staying up so late and sleeping through most of the rotation, ending up 1 point lower than I started, so I didn't even gain anything doing this. And then I play a little bit of tower control afterward and end at S71, so overall I'm 1 match lower than I woke up at, and I just stop so I can have plenty of time to mentally collect myself and make food before heading to my job at the theater. Monkey Man came out that week. Good movie.
You know what DK stands for? Donkey Kong.
Monkey Man.
Honestly, I was so happy to go to work just to have an excuse to get out of my apartment and not play Splatoon. I know I've mentioned numerous times, oh, I'm getting desperate, and oh, I'm exhausted, like I'm exaggerating for the sake of the video, but this shit was seriously affecting me. I was playing for so long with such a focused mindset that my body was feeling the consequences. Is this what it feels like to be a League player?
When I play, I'm positioned like this, resting my arms on my legs here while holding the gamepad, you know, usually in gamer mode. And like, I'm scrawny. I'm not the most physically fit guy. Not unhealthy, mind you. Mind you, my legs stabilize my aim, but I'm pushing down on them. My legs, eventually, sometime in these last couple of days, starts to like, shake. Involuntarily. I have to start re-queuing for almost every match, not just for a stress break, but also so that I can stand up and stretch my legs so they don't get too fucked up. The reasonable thing to do would be to stop and not play for a while, but I didn't have that time to spare for this. Not anymore, my procrastinating ass. Besides, I figure there's 3 days left anyway. I can just be mindful of things where I can be and push through. Also not helping was the damn gamepad itself. Pretty much every time I get splatted, I look down at the map to see what's going on and who I could reasonably jump to when I respawned, or if I should at all. Plus add on all the times I needed to use Ink Strike, because I had to look down to see where I was aiming it. Oh yeah, right on the Rainmaker. No, they're gonna go right here, put it right there. Being hunched over like that enough times started to kinda hurt my neck. Nothing serious, but it wasn't a fun addition to what I was already going through. And it gets worse.
When I went to bed the night before, I closed my eyes and saw the game against my will. I'm not fucking joking about this. When trying to relax myself laying on my bed to fall asleep, I would see the countdown at the end of a match over gameplay in the darkness of my eyelids. I was at that point where you play a game long enough that it just invades your mind. Something that's only happened to me with Overwatch and Breath of the Wild.
I remember when Breath of the Wild came out, I played it for like 24 hours the first weekend. The shit was legendary. But later that week, when I was on the bus after high school and we were waiting for the middle schoolers to all get out, I was staring at the middle school gym building, which is like, you know, decently big, about 2 stories or so. And I thought to myself, there's probably something on top of there. Or at least like I can get a good vantage point to see other stuff. I should go over there and climb that. Until I realized I'm not in Breath of the Wild. In Overwatch, I just played a lot, before I even played comp even, and I went to bed one night, after playing, and I involuntarily saw a match of Dorado playing out when I closed my eyes. With me playing Diva for some reason. I never even played Diva back then. Like, when I tanked, I played Reinhardt. I'm still confused by that. Those were fun instances, though. That kind of thing happening with Splatoon 1 was concerning.
That happened with Breath of the Wild and Overwatch because I was overly into those games and playing them a ton. Splatoon 1, don't get me wrong, I really like, but most of my playtime around this time was stress-induced from playing ranked game modes and trying to meet a deadline, while still dealing with life stuff like college and work. Not that I wasn't having fun playing the game, but fun wasn't the point. Not when my mind, and especially my body, was taking on so much stress.
What are we doing playing dumb games like that?
So much time is going into this, so much effort, and if I wasn't able to achieve what I set out to do here, I was gonna be crushed. Not just because of the wasted time and effort, not just because I wouldn't be able to make the video I wanted, but because I'd fail at this huge personal goal for myself. Something I honestly thought I could do. Something I thought I was good enough for, but maybe I wasn't. Before, I came to terms with this taking hours upon hours to do so, which ended up being the case. Now, I started to come to terms with failing, telling myself that if I didn't hit S+, I at least gave a good goddamned effort. That's why I kept going. If I didn't play as much as I did in these last few days, I would be lying to myself if I said I tried to give a full effort. Sure, the procrastination didn't help, but procrastinating is just a part of who I am, as much as I hate it. And as far as that bad habit goes, I've managed it plenty worse for smaller things. Obviously, in this scenario, I was being stupid. Doing all of this was seriously not good for my health, and I in no way recommend that you do something similar. If you are going through seriously tough grinds in a video game, please pace yourself. This is not an endorsement of these methods, this is a warning. With all of that in mind, procrastination aside, I was really getting fed up with my rank position. Within the past 9 hours of gameplay, even though I did get higher for a time, I mostly stayed within the same range of 60s to 80s, very rarely going outside of it. Hours-long gameplay sessions just to end up back to where I started. Not to mention, all the time in S rank beforehand that amounted to nothing, like with all the matches that led me going back to A+, then making huge progress in 1 hour-long session after, then losing all of that over the course of 4 hours. Sure, by now I wasn't dropping back down, I was at least staying at a decently higher position, but I just felt stuck. Anything and everything I tried to do, again, over hours and hours, led me back to my rank being in the 70s. It was like I was in purgatory, and all it takes is one bad luck string to send me right back down to hell, which was a hell of a lot easier than the other way around. I already have gone through that. I might even go through it again. I just don't fucking know. You can see me eyeballing the range blaster here because I am in despair and trying to look for an answer, like changing my weapon this far into everything would actually work. I don't know better. I don't. And so, I stop. Because I had to go to work, remember? Splatoon was taking up all of my free time. I still had shit to do, you know? Let me tell you, working customer service never felt so relieving. That's how fucked up this all was.
I'll swallow your soul!
Come get some.
Getting out and active was good for me. It certainly helped my legs feel better, but it also refreshed my mind. Like, hey, it is good to have multiple parts of your life that are somewhat self-contained. Only problem was, once the shift was over, I knew I was going right back. Right after I got home, and after a shower of course, it was back on. At this point, I knew my biggest problem was stress. Not just health-wise, but playing-wise. Too often did I get ahead of myself when a match was going well, and too often did I get nervous when faced with tight situations. I wasn't getting into S+ like that. Not in the 2 days I had left. Flounder Heights and Museum Delfonsino were in rotation. Remember, I still thought Delfonsino was cursed here, so even though it was with Rainmaker, I wasn't particularly happy about this rotation. Until I was, of course. Still, that didn't matter. I couldn't think about what I did or didn't like. That would just stress me out. I had to clear my mind of both the bad and the good. I couldn't think of losing, nor could I think of winning. I was done asking myself questions. I just had to be. During this session, my mind was not that of an inkling, not even that of a squid, human, or cephalopod, but of a goat. I had to think like a kung fu master. I had to think like Kung Fu Kenny.
Kung Fu Kenny!
Sit down.
I didn't get excited or disappointed during these matches. I just played as well as I could and went with the flow emotionally. All while listening through Good Kid, Mad City in the background, and eventually To Pimp a Butterfly when that was over.
Say fuck them niggas that you game with. That's just how I feel.
Right from the start, my resolution was being tested as I suffered a loss. This is, of course, a natural part of the process. No need to be upset. The second match is proof of this, as although the other team gets a lead on us, as my mind is clear, I see a clear path to victory. I send down an ink strike, grab the Rainmaker, and dive down from the top of the building to my demise, getting us in the lead by 1 point. We hold this for the entire second half of the match and get the win. Yin and yang. Tide goes in, tide goes out. This sense of balance allows oneself to see the greater picture, and how balance is in everything. For example, the first dozen matches of this session are fairly well balanced in terms of winning and losing, but at no point do the losses bother me because losing is simply of no greater concern now. I'm here to get S+, and if matches are to be lost, then they are lost. That's life. For the rest of this session, this was the energy I kept. Of course, in reality, I'm only human. Not a goat, not a squid, I am a human motherfucking being of dope-ass gameplay. As much as I was trying to hold on to this Kung Fu Master mindset, in the back of my head were the thoughts I was trying to keep on the down low. My teammate messed up. I messed up and I'm not good enough. I'm a god at this game and this is easy. I'm gonna be stuck here no matter what. But I put all of that to the side as best as I could, because you know what? There was one thought that overtook all of them and motivated me to overcome my stress during this session. I want this. It didn't matter how long I had to keep playing, or how many matches I lost. None of that mattered to my determined, stubborn-ass self. And if you thought I was gonna crack up or give up now or ever, you're dead fucking wrong! A map rotation. After finally getting one match away from ranking up again. A map rotation. Alright then. Of course my old favorite would be the promotion match. Follow down right like I usually do. Looks like our charger is doing the same. Gotta get the scripper off the point. Okay, that was less than ideal, but we got it. For now, just stay on the point with Sprinkler and get as much of a lead as we can. Oh, that's all my teammates getting splatted. At least I'm in a good spot for them to jump. Wait, we just lost the point? Oh, I have Ink Strike. I can still save this. Alright, well we got that back pretty handily. Ah, right. Hey, the team's holding well without me. Just gotta hold a little longer and we can get a knockout. Almost. No, Slosher, we're not getting away with this. I don't even know how. Our charger got them. Good. Oh god, we won. We won! I did it. After 50 plus hours of gameplay, after putting it off more than I should have, after working my body and mind to the point of exhaustion, I did it. I got to S+, the highest rank in the game. Well, minus max S+ if you count it, but there was no shot I was going for that, deadline or not. I did what I set out to do, and achieved my goal. As you can imagine, once I got the win and hit S+, I turned the Kung Fu Kenny mindset off and let a wave of relief and excitement wash over me. It was everything you don't want to hear as a Kendrick fan.
But I wanna cut the next up, boy, you got the yams! But it's suicidal, they don't even need my help. Life ain't shit but a fat vagina screaming, Annie, are you okay?
Lost my life, I has to fight.
It was like 2 in the morning. I didn't want to wake my roommate up, okay?
Oh, I forgot the mic.
Also, yes, this does mean I was listening to For Free Interlude during that last match.
Celery, green is all I need, and really all I see was spam and raw sardines. This dick.
With hitting S+, I also realized how much in-game cash I got from doing this. I basically had the ability to buy everything I didn't have from stores, which I promptly did with enthusiasm. Finally, I had got to do another thing I had wanted to do since I was 15, buy every weapon from Sheldon. I had more than enough, even if the servers weren't shutting down, especially with the sea snails I still had. Oh god, I didn't even use these, just like elixirs and RPGs. Oh well, they make for a nice memento, I guess. With all said and done, I took a walk through Rinkopolis Square, soaked it all in, and called it a night. Though, not before changing one last thing. After all, I wasn't done with Splatoon 1 just yet. But that night, I could finally head to bed with a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I was, honestly, more in disbelief than anything. I actually pulled it off. I actually got S+. I, achieved something like that. For a few minutes, I just laid on my bed staring at the ceiling while going over how what I did was even possible. It was hard. Hard to do, and hard on me. Maybe it was silly, or even stupid, and I certainly couldn't tell anyone I knew about this other than my brother because they wouldn't appreciate it, maybe even think I was insane, and not for the actual insane stuff. But I was proud of myself. Proud, and thankful that things worked out. At least, for me. For now.